Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Mr.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good seeing you.
Same here.
Hey, Cindy.
Hi,
Hi.
good to see you.
Good. Well, Aaron,
Hi.
everybody's coming on board.
Hmm.
Maria, I don't remember the last time I said 26 is a quorum.
I know.
This is almost our church too.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Hey,
evening.
Julio.
Good evening.
Leo.
Hi, Cindy.
Hey there.
Hi, everyone.
Hey,
Hello, good seeing you.
Good evening, folks. Nice to see everyone.
Hello, we're getting close.
Mm-mm.
Says at 6 o'clock, I'm going to start the webinar. We should see attendees start to join. And the recording's in progress.
That's a nice computer.
Cesar, I believe we have it.
Good evening.
Hello.
So we're at a quorum, Jeremy?
Yep.
All right, let's just give another minute, see who joins, and then maybe what we'll do to start is I know there are some new board members. Maybe we'll give each one 30 seconds to themselves, and then we'll start the meeting.
Let me mute some of these open mics.
So yeah, why don't we do that? Jeremy, do you have the list? And maybe you can just call on our new board members. And again, 30 seconds just to kind of introduce yourselves and give us a little sense of who you are and your background, whatever you want to share with us, frankly.
Sure. So we have not officially started the meeting yet, although you are being recorded. The first one I have is Amel Afzal. Amel, if you'd like to.
Hi,
unmute.
guys. That's me. Yeah, I am new on the board. I am a product director at Spotify, and I live in Sunset Park. And I've been attending some of these calls even before me joining, and I was really inspired by all of you. So really happy to be here. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
We also have Christina Das. Christina,
Hi, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Yep.
Hi, sorry, I can't go on video. I'm actually traveling. I'm in South Carolina right now for some voter protection work. But yeah, it's great to be with you all. I'm also new to the board, but I've enjoyed the meetings for the past year or so. Yeah, I'm a voting rights attorney with the NAACP, and we're excited to build community with you all and continue to be involved. Thanks.
Thank you. Welcome. Who's next?
I have Damaris Santiago next.
Hi, I know you can't see me, but if you did, you all know who I am. So I'm born and bred in Sunset Park. Most of you have seen me in person in the meetings before COVID, and I'm pretty much in every meeting, every committee meeting that I can. And I've tried to get on the board a couple of times. Didn't work. I tried this time with Community Board 6 because I do a lot of work in Red Hook, and they kicked me back this way. So that's how I ended up here now. And I'm a small business owner on 4th Avenue, DG Tax, and some of you might even know me from the Lions Club.
Absolutely. Welcome, Damaris. Good to have you.
Thank you. I have Jerry Chan next.
Hey, can you hear me? So if you guys can hear me, I apologize for not turning my camera on. I'm actually in the subway going back to Sunset Park. Jerry Chan. So what I do is I am a business owner in Sunset Park. I'm also considered a subject matter expert in the field of cybersecurity and IT risk. I also attend multiple time on the board, and I feel like that I want to be involved since my business, my office is located in Sunset Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Welcome.
I have Leonette Lopez next.
Good evening, everyone. Also new to the board. I'm actually born and raised in Sunset Park. I currently work at H&M in their e-commerce team, and I'm super excited to join you guys. I'm very interested in a lot of the topics that have been part of the committees and attended a few subcommittee meetings. So I'm really excited to be on board with you all.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
I have Myra Molina next.
Hi everyone, I'm Myra. I was born and raised in Sunset Park as well. Attended public school here, and I think I'm very passionate about education, and I'm trying to start a new program in Sunset Park to combat all the issues regarding education, academic support, and I'm currently working for CUNY, but yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Diana Gonzalez is next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Diana Gonzalez. I live in Windsor Terrace, where I own a political consulting firm. I don't know what we were supposed to tell everybody, but yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Apologies for being late.
Not a problem. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
I believe we've reached the end of those in attendance, Cesar.
Great. Okay, so I think we'll get started. So Jeremy, let's stop sharing the screen for a second, and then we'll put it back up in a minute. Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm Cesar Zuniga, and I am the chair of Community Board 7. The chair, I guess, until the end of the month. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. So I want to go ahead and officially open the meeting. So before we do that, I want to call our residence flag installation in person, which is Beverly, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Do you want to lead us, Bev?
My pleasure. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Cesar, I thought it was just me, but I'm seeing other people's faces. I don't know if anybody's hearing you right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, but much better.
Okay. So thank you, Beverly, and let's go with our first roll call. Maria.
Okay, good evening, board members. I will be calling your name. Once you hear your name, unmute yourself, say here or present, and mute yourself once again. Thank you. Ramona Acevedo. Ramona Acevedo. Amel Afsal.
Present.
Thank you. Sandra Alfonso.
Present.
Thank you. Grisela Amador.
Present.
Thank you. Genesis Aquino.
Here, present.
Thank you. Nicholas Azadian.
Present.
Thank you. Joan Body.
Here.
Thank you. Stacy Boyd.
Here.
Thank you. Samuel Breitbart. Samuel Breitbart. Gladys Bruno. Gladys Bruno. Joseph Canale. Joseph Canale. Jerry Chan.
Here. Jerry's
Okay.
here.
Hold on. Joseph Canale, I see you.
Here. Yes, sorry.
Jerry Chan.
Present.
Thank you. Justin Collins.
Here.
Thank you. Christina Das.
Present.
Thank you. John DeLuper.
Present.
Thank you. Beatrice Sapio.
Present.
Thank you. David Estrada.
Here.
Thank you. Cynthia Felix.
Present.
Thank you. John Fontillis. John Fontillis. Kin Fung.
Yeah.
Thank you. John Garcia.
Presente.
Thank you. Cynthia Gonzalez. Diana Gonzalez.
Here.
Thank you. Hector Gonzalez.
Here.
Thank you. Kenny Guan. Kenny Guan. Nicole Huang.
I'm here.
Thank you. John Johnston.
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Beverly Kleiman. Beverly.
Present. Thank you.
Waco. Waco. Barbara Lee.
Present.
Thank you. Christina Lem.
I'm here.
Thank you. Jimmy Lee.
Present.
Thank you. Leonette Lopez.
Present.
Thank you. Paul Mack.
Present.
Thank you. Antoinette Martinez.
Present.
Thank you. Aurelis Martinez. Aurelis Martinez. Marilyn Melman. Marilyn Melman. Myra Molina.
Present.
Thank you. Dan Murphy. Dan Murphy.
Present.
Thank you. Julio Pena.
Present.
Thank you. Rovika Raskashan.
Present.
Thank you. Karen Rolnick.
Present.
Thank you. Pat Ruiz.
Present.
Thank you. Damaris Santiago.
Present.
Thank you. Sam Sierra.
Present. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Victor Swinton.
Present.
Thank you. Cindy
You're
Van
welcome.
der Bosch.
Present.
Thank you. Catherine Walsh. Fred Wolf. Cesar Zuniga.
Okay, thank you, Maria. And so just to kind of give everyone, particularly our new members, so I think the two major items that we have today on the agenda, major meaning that we're gonna take a vote, will be for our nominating committee, because we are having our leadership elections tonight. And we're also going to vote on a resolution to support a text amendment that we are being asked to be partners with on the subcommittee on last mile trucking facilities. And so as we move forward, we'll be explaining how all of this is going to work. So right now, what I want to do is I want to officially open tonight's meeting. And then I want to go right to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any comments or any revisions to the agenda? If there are none, I would
Motion
like
to adopt.
So thank you, Pat, for moving that. And is there a second?
Cesar, I wanted to suggest moving the second roll call to just before the nominating committee.
Okay, so we'll move the second roll call to right before the nominating committee. And so again, is there a motion to move this with the amendment? Okay, thank you, Pat. And is there a second? Beverly, thank you for seconding that. Okay, so I'd like to move this through unanimous consent unless there are any objections to that. Okay, hearing or seeing no objections, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next is the adoption of the minutes of the May 18, 2022 board meeting. Is there a motion to adopt those
I
meetings?
make a motion, Joan makes a motion to accept
Thank
the
you,
minutes
Joan.
as written.
Second by Sam.
Cesar, your audio is breaking up again.
All right, hold on one second. Okay, so we have a motion by Joan, a second by Sammy. I'd like to move this through unanimous consent unless there are any objections. Okay, seeing or hearing no objections.
Cesar,
motion
could I
carries.
just ask your indulgence one moment? Maria, would you share your screen once again? Maria? Thank you. Thank you, Cesar, sorry.
No problem. How's my audio? Am I still breaking up,
You're
Jeremy?
coming through well. I think when you turn away from the camera, it's not.
All right. So let me actually work on that. I'll just move that closer. Okay. Actually, let me just try one over here.
Okay, how's that? Can you hear me?
Much
Sounds
better.
good.
Okay, great. All right, so let's go right to, so that motion carried, number 5, which is the adoption of the minutes for the board, the May 18th meeting. Let's go right to the first public comment. So let me just explain this before we get into it. So typically we have 2 public comments on the agenda. The first one is typically comes at the beginning or now, and it's for public comment on items that are on the agenda. For items that are not on the agenda, we have a second public comment that comes at the end of the agenda, toward the end of the agenda. Public comment is just that, public comments. There is no, it isn't a time for responding to questions. It's just to have members of the public make any comment they wish within the 3-minute time frame. So Jeremy, do we have anyone on the list for the public comment, for the first public comment?
Members of the public, if you'd like to speak during this public comment period about items on the agenda, please use the raise hand function now. Cesar, I see no hands up at the moment.
Great. So we'll actually keep moving then. So we're gonna go right to committee reports, and we are gonna go to the nominating committee so we can get the election out of the way, and then we can continue with the rest of the business that we have. So Jeremy, I guess what I want to do is first I want to remind board members that they should have received an email from the staff yesterday outlining how the procedure is going to work. But I want to give Jeremy an opportunity to kind of just run down the procedure at this moment, and then we'll go right to Joan and go into the nominating committee. So Jeremy, do you want to just walk us through the process?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So in a few minutes after Joan speaks, we're going to take another roll call, and that will be the final roll call before the vote, and that's what we will use to send out your ballot. A few minutes after that, you will be receiving your ballot by email, and you will have 30 minutes to respond and send it back. This is being done through Election Buddy, which tallies your vote. It lets us know who votes. It does not tell us who you vote for. There will be 3 options for 4 offices, which are being competed for this evening. Those 3 options are the 2 candidates' names, and the 3rd option is I choose not to vote for this office. If you pick that, that is essentially not turning your paper ballot in for that office when we used to do that. So that does not count towards a quorum, because that's not considered here. It is simply a way to be able to turn in your entire ballot, because Election Buddy forces you to have a response for each office. So it doesn't count towards the final. When at the end of 30 minutes, the election will be over. It is timed by Election Buddy, and I will be able to see the results, which I will email to the entire nominating committee. Joan will then read the results, and for the offices that are not, there is only one candidate, she will ask the secretary to cast 1 vote, and it will be declared unanimous. That's the procedure. If there are any questions on procedure, I'd be happy to talk about that.
I'll entertain a couple of questions. I think Beverly, you had a question, or is it clear?
Cesar, do you want to let Joan give her report first, and then we can answer questions?
That makes sense. So Joan, why don't
The
you?
question was answered.
Great, thank you, Beverly. Joan, why don't you go ahead then and run through your report, and then if there are questions, we'll entertain them at that point.
Okay. First, I want to thank the board for all the work that they've done, and I want to thank them individually. Jeremy, Maria, and Natasha, you guys have done a fabulous job. You always go overboard in a positive way. And I want to thank you, and I want to wish you all the best and have a great summer. Okay, guys. I'm going to read the slate one by one. And Julio Pena is running for chair unopposed. For vice chair, first vice chair is Nick Azadian and Cindy Vandenbosch. Second vice chair is Pat Ruiz, running unopposed. Secretary is Karen Rolnick, also running unopposed. Assistant secretary is John DeLupa and John Johnson. Treasurer Sandra Alfonso and Cynthia Felix. Community Outreach Coordinator, Antoinette Martinez and Cesar Zagunda. Sergeant at Arms is Victor Swinton. Assistant Sergeant at Arms is Sam Sierra, and Jimmy Lee sent us an email that he has withdrawn. And that's the slate. And I do your best to cast your vote, guys, because it really is easy. The board sent, Jeremy and the girls sent out a test run twice, and it was very simple. I also tried changing my vote, and that worked very well also. So that's it, guys. Have a great night. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Joan. Okay, so now are there any questions? Or any need for clarification? Okay, Ravika, go ahead.
Thank you. For the new position, right? The Community Outreach Coordinator, is that a new position that we're doing this year?
Yes.
Is there a description of what that position would do that you can share with all of us before we vote?
That's a really good question. Cindy or Jeremy, where?
It's in the bylaws.
It's in the bylaws.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't read the bylaws before today. So can we just do a recap of what that position will do before we vote?
The bylaws were voted for. Refresh my memory, Julio. Was that in February?
I believe it was in December. If you give me about maybe 60 seconds, I can copy and paste it.
So Cesar, maybe this is a good time to call that second roll call while we get a copy of the bylaws and we could read that.
Great, let's do that. Maria, you want to do the second roll call?
Okay, I will be calling those board members that were not present at the original roll call only. If you hear your name, unmute yourself and say here are present and mute yourself once again. Ramon Acevedo. Samuel Breitbart.
Present.
Thank you. Gladys Bruno. John Fontillis.
John here.
Thank you. Cynthia Gonzalez. Kenny Guan. Wei Ko. Aurelis Martinez. Marilyn Melman.
Here. Present.
Thank you. Catherine Walsh. Fred Wolf. Second roll call called.
So Maria, will you just email me the names, or I'm sorry, text me the names of those who are absent tonight? And then Cesar, the email will be, and board members, the email will be going out at 6:45, and you will have a half hour to vote. Cesar?
Thank you. So I just want to reiterate something that I want to make sure everyone is clear in case people step away or whatever. The software works by the administrator, in this case, Jeremy, setting a time frame from when the vote is going to be open. So you really need to vote within that 30-minute time frame, because then the software automatically closes out the voting and you're not going to be able to vote after the 30 minutes. So at 6:45, you basically will have until 7:15 to cast your vote. And then the software automatically closes the voting and no more votes will be taken after 7:15. Okay, Pat, did you have a question? You're on mute, Pat. You're still on mute, Pat. Can't read lips. I'm sorry. You want to type something in the chat? Okay, I think we're going to keep moving. So, Julio, do you want to just quickly read the community engagement description?
Sure. And thank you, Cindy, for putting in the chat faster than I was able to. My Zoom license doesn't allow me to copy and paste, so I have a lot of difficulties doing that. So the duties of the community engagement officer, Article 5, Section 10, and our bylaws, the community engagement officer shall serve as the board's principal liaison to nonprofit organizations, small businesses, and other community entities wishing to partner with the board. In their capacity as liaison, the community engagement officer shall regularly provide the board with information and updates as needed at regular board meetings or relevant committee meetings. The community engagement officer shall work with committee chairpersons who wish to organize events or partner with community-based organizations. And additional duties of the community engagement officer may be outlined in the board member handbook.
Thank you. And I guess it's, just to add to that context, essentially we created this position because one of the things that I think this board has really led on is the idea of engaging community and opening up the space. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. And so I think this is a really, for me, a natural sort of next step in sort of the ethos of what this board is, which is to really get people participating, get people engaged, and really live up to the idea that community boards are the most proximal level of government for folks to be engaged. And so, I'm really thrilled that this position is part of our executive committee. Thank you, Julio. Okay, any other questions before we go to? Okay, so Jeremy, I guess now that we've gone through the steps, the protocol, and
so what's typically done is each candidate is given a minute to speak.
Okay, let's do
I can't be involved right now. I have to finish setting up the ballot.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. So Joan, do you want to just maybe take from the top of the list and start calling on the candidates who are on the ballot and give them a minute to introduce themselves?
Joan, you're muted.
Sorry. We'll get there one of these days. Okay, Julio Pena, would you like to share with the board?
Sure. Even though I am running uncontested for the position, I am incredibly excited to take on the position of chairperson. I think we have come a long way in the last 2 years, and the last couple of years. But I think we also have a long way to go in terms of engaging our district, particularly in a new way that I think works for some, but doesn't work for everyone, right? And I think we've been learning that. And particularly for me, what I would like to continue doing is learning how to better deepen the work that we've done and figure out how we can work more closely with our neighbors sorry, my cat, institute some things that we've done in the past that has worked really well, but also figure out how to be more creative in some of the things that we've been able to do. And I'm really excited with some of the new members that have joined us this year because I'm really open to some new ideas and some of the new energy, and very much looking forward to working with you all.
Okay, thank you very much, Julio. For first vice chair, the first one up is Nick Azadian. Would you like to share?
Sure. So I'm very excited to potentially be the first vice chair to really assist Julio in the mission of the board. Everyone that is running has served on the board for quite a number of years, and we've really made a lot of strides and dealt with many struggles during the pandemic. And as we exit the pandemic, really trying to help Sunset Park and Windsor Terrace, get a solid footing and move us back in a positive direction. So I really look forward to potentially serving in that role. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Cindy Vanderbosch for first vice chair.
I've been incredibly grateful to serve on the community board for several years, and I'm honored to be up for first vice chair. For those of you who are new, we have made great strides in accessibility over the past few years. Communication accessibility for meetings, ensuring that people can hear when they're in the boardroom, things like that. And that's something that I'm really passionate about, as many board members know. If given the opportunity to serve as vice chair, but really in any role on the board, I would like to support education, transparency, accessibility, and accountability to our neighbors. Those are really the areas of focus, is how can we work together and make sure that all of us know Robert's Rules of Order, parliamentary procedure, and empower one another to have opportunities to speak and participate. For me, it's about meaningful engagement, and I want to see that happen and work together with all of you, regardless of my role, but I hope I'm first vice chair. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Pat Ruiz, second vice chair. Pat, are you still having problems?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm on my cell phone waiting for my laptop to reboot itself. But before I just say a quick thing about myself, my question was, before I was interrupted, was for folks, as you know, come in late, before 6:45 or by 6:45, will they be given the opportunity to vote, or it is too late after the second roll call?
I can add up to 2 people.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because as we move the agenda around, that may.
The election's ready to run. It's going out at 6:45.
Okay, great. That answers my question. Anyway, welcome to all of the new members. For those who don't know me, I have been with the board for close to 20 years, if not more. I have served in several capacities. I've been first vice chair. This will be my second term as second vice chair. I've been secretary, I've been treasurer. So it's been a good run, and I look forward to continue serving in this capacity for another year, or whatever the term is, and whatever the future holds after that. So welcome, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Pat. Secretary Carol Rolnick. Like to share, Carol?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Karen Rolnick. I've been on the board for several years, and I was the treasurer, and I'm resigning from being the treasurer and going on to be the secretary because I find I'm better with words than with numbers. And I'm honored to be the secretary of this community board. It's a group of people that work well together, and I'm proud to be a part of it. So thank you.
You're welcome, Carol. Assistant Secretary first, John DeLupa.
All right, thank you. Following up on that, my name is John DeLupa. I've been a board member for about a year, and I've been honored to serve in this capacity. I'm interested in serving in this role because I was a secretary to a membership organization of 100 members in a previous job. So from this, I know I can write minutes quickly. I'm familiar with word processing software like Microsoft Word and Google Docs. So from this, I think I could do what the bylaws say. We talked about bylaws tonight of recording minutes if the secretary is not present, or if instructed to by secretary or chairperson. So I appreciate your consideration, and hope you'll consider me as you vote for this role. Thank you.
Thank you, John. John Johnson?
Hi, everyone. I've been on the board for about, I believe this is my second term coming up. I'm very interested in getting more involved in the board activities and getting involved in engagement and other issues affecting the community. I have experience also writing minutes and getting nonprofit boards and other associations. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Treasurers, Sandra Alfonso? Would like
Good
to
evening.
share?
Yes, good evening, everybody. I apologize that you guys can't see me, but I'm at work and it's a lot of noise. So if you guys hear a background noise, I apologize. So I'm gonna take what Karen said, the opposite. I am better with numbers than words. So you guys can see I barely talk in the meeting. So I am honored to be named for this position. Thank you.
You're welcome. Community outreach, Antoinette Martinez?
I'm sorry, I believe you missed Cynthia Felix.
Oh, sorry, Cynthia.
Hi, no worries, Joe. How are you? Good evening, everyone. My name is Cynthia Felix Jeffers, and I'm running for treasurer. I've been a board member for about 2 years. I want to say I was appointed late 2019 to take over someone who had left and then be elected just recently. I am running to be treasurer because I want to have a voice in how we have our capital priorities and expense priorities. I have been on the meetings that have been led by John Garcia, and I found them interesting to find out what it is that we want to prioritize and the order of that, and I would be honored to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Community Outreach Coordinator, the first one, Antoinette Martinez.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if you can see me. I'm having some connection issues.
You can
But
see me.
oh, you can? Okay, awesome. So let me do this quick. Sorry.
Was that it?
So, hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Antoinette Martinez. And I'll be brief. So just a little bit about myself. I am a proud lifelong member, a lifelong resident of Sunset Park. I graduated from Binghamton University, majoring in sociology and biology, and I currently work in information technology with the New York State Office of Mental Health. In my 20s, I was encouraged by several mentors to not only really engage and challenge the status quo, but to also become more involved in local community work. And it was really through that guidance that I have worked on and helped to lead a number of community-led initiatives here in Sunset Park, which ultimately led to me serving on Community Board 7. And I mentioned this all because, like many of you, I am not a person who comes from privilege. I wasn't raised knowing all the things that I know now because I didn't always have access. And serving on this community board, and specifically the Sunset Park community, has been one of the most fulfilling roles I've ever had, because it has really pushed me to grow and to think outside of the box and to really push to make things more transparent, so that we can bring more people, more residents to have a seat at the table, and not only be heard, but to also have an opportunity to collaborate and to lead. Currently, I chair the Housing Committee, and together with committee members, we've broken the Housing Committee hiatus and led a number of informationals ranging in topics from housing lotteries in the district to the opening of new shelters, local law 152, and housing developments in the state's brownfield cleanup program. But most exciting is that we were able to hold virtual meetings across the district. And we have done so in a way that really prioritizes community voices. And we haven't had as many meetings as we wanted to this year, but I think we've been able to come together and accomplish so much in a short amount of time. And I'm really dedicated to working hard as a community outreach coordinator, not only to work with small businesses and local community organizations and to keep everyone looped in, but also to ensure that meetings are accessible to everyone and to really take on this role and expand it using technology and connecting with those community partners to ensure language access is something that we tackle, which is a really critical issue that we have here, especially with Community Board 7. Currently, I serve on the Neighborhood Advisory Board, and we have members whose first language is not English, and we're able to hold really great meetings with translation services. And I feel,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Cesar, segundo.
Thank you, Joan. Hi, everyone. I'm Cesar Zuniga, and I'm the current chair of Community Board 7. And look, I'm running for this position because one of the things that that I was absolutely committed to when I came in as chair is, again, to open up the space. Right? I came in and I quickly realized that one of the most important I guess tasks that we have as a community board is to make sure that we're including our community as much as possible, that we're really engaging. And so I'm really looking forward to continuing that work in this position. I think our board has led around accessibility. I think Cindy mentioned something earlier. I'm very proud of the work that we did to make the board more accessible, to make sure that anyone can participate. Language access obviously has been a real critical component to this outreach and accessibility work, and I'm going to continue to double down on that. I think I feel like, what Julio mentioned, we have a long way to go. We've made a lot of gains in the last 4 years, but we have a long way to go, and I want to continue to have his board lead around access, accessibility, and engagement. That's what community boards are for, and we really need to double down on making sure that we have a board that engages and that creates opportunities, that continues to open up the space, the community board space. So I'm looking forward, and I'm asking for your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cesar. Sergeant at Arms Victor Swinton.
Yes, good evening. Could you hear me?
Yes. No. Now you're muted. And you're frozen. We can't hear you, Victor.
Hello?
Victor?
Okay, now we can. No.
Victor, no, he keeps freezing, Joan.
I'll come back. I'll get back to you,
Next one, we
Victor.
can come back to him.
Assistant Sergeant at Arms Sam Sierra. Sammy?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I hope you can hear me okay. To our new board members, welcome. And for those that don't know me, as I said, my name is Samuel Sierra. I live in Sunset Park since 1968. I've been on the board for a couple of terms. I've served as chair to a few committees, and I'm happy to serve the board in any capacity that I can, and I'm honored to be able to. And I look forward to working with the new team and the new energy. Not that there was anything wrong with the old team and old energy, but I'm looking forward to the new. So thank you so much, and welcome once again.
Thank you, Sammy. Victor, are you?
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak right now. My name is Victor Swinton, lifetime Sunset Park residents. One of my great I shouldn't say accomplishments, but happiness in my life was to join this community board. The work that this board has done over the years were tremendous. So I want to thank all the board members and welcome the new ones. I am currently the Sergeant of Arms in the community board on the executive board. And I have somewhat experience in doing the Sergeant of Arms with some other organizations I was part of. Unfortunately, trying to keep the peace at the meetings, we're doing Zoom right now, but I am glad to be able to serve again on the new board. Definitely to go forward with that is to do what I can to to help the citizens, the residents of the city is just an honor to me. So I thank you all. Thank you.
I thank you, Victor. Okay, guys, that's the
Email
slate.
has been delivered to everybody.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. I was just looking at my email. I don't see anything, so let's give it a couple more minutes. But yeah, I guess we'll give it a couple more minutes. I'll check in with you in a couple minutes, Jeremy, to see if we actually did. Well, let's put it like this. Did anyone else receive? You did get it. Okay, great. Excellent. All right. So I guess it's still coming. So why don't we move forward then? And while people vote, when we were in person, Jeremy, we would have continued the meeting, right? As people voted, or do we want to break for these 30 minutes? What's the protocol here?
You could do whatever else you want. There are other committee reports. The assembly member is here now.
Okay, why don't we go with the assembly member before we go to the next committee report? Assembly member Carol, go ahead. You're
Thank you. Thank you, Cesar, and good evening, Community Board 7. It's wonderful to be with all of you tonight, and good luck to everybody running. I used to be a Community Board 7 member. It's really a fantastic service to all of us who live in Sunset Park and Windsor Terrace. The work that's done here to make sure that we have active participation by community members. So thank you for all who are participating and who are looking to take on leadership roles in CB7. Just very quickly, last week we ended the session in Albany. It was not a perfect end to the session. There were some really great accomplishments, and there's some other things that I think we could have done and hopefully will get done in the not too distant future. But first and foremost, the state passed a number of laws strengthening our already very strong gun control laws, including raising the age to buy any type of semi-automatic rifle to 21, to stop people from buying body armor and other purely military gear, unless they are a member of a police department or other type of emergency responder, as well as strengthening some of our red flag laws and a whole host of other things. After the white supremacist killings in Buffalo and yet another school shooting in Texas, I'm not the first, nor will I be the last person to say that, these things are not rare in our country anymore, and it's unbelievably terrible. I do believe New York is showing real leadership, but obviously we need help from other states and we need help federally, because many of the guns, unfortunately, that were purchased for the Buffalo shooting, many of them were purchased legally in New York State. And so we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen again. But of course, many of the guns that are used to commit violence in our country are purchased illegally or in other states where they have very loose gun control laws. We've also strengthened our laws around a woman's right to choose and around doctors who perform abortion services and other necessary medical services for women, to make sure that if the Supreme Court does overturn Roe v. Wade, that women in need of those services will always have a right to choose here in New York. And I think that that was very important, and we are continuing to work on not just those laws, but also putting a constitutional amendment in the New York State Constitution to further strengthen that right, to make sure that New York does not fall prey to some of the really draconian laws that are being thought up of in other parts of our country. I will also say there were some other laws that we passed at the end of session that I sponsored that I think are very important. One was a dyslexia task force to have the state education department impanel experts and come up with evidence-based curriculum interventions, teacher training and screening for all students K through 5th grade for dyslexia to fight the literacy crisis that pervades the nation. I, as a child, struggled with dyslexia. Early identification, remediation, the right interventions changed my life. There's no reason we can't do that for every single young person in our state, and I hope this bill will do that. We also passed another bill of mine that would allow for renters to be, it's called a Right to Know Act around flood risk, to make sure that every renter, when they sign a lease, is told if they're living in a floodplain and if there's been flooding at that apartment. After the tragedies that happened in Queens and elsewhere last year, where folks in basement apartments and elsewhere lost their lives because of extreme flooding, we need to make sure that renters are aware of the risk when they rent an apartment. And I think that law will go a long way to do that. Well, we also passed 2 election law bills of mine that would make sure that one would allow people to register within 10 days of an election, primary or special election. So I think that's really good. So to help participation, so folks can register close to an election so that they can in fact vote. And another bill to make sure that we don't disenfranchise individuals' votes if they vote at the wrong polling place, but within the right county and assembly district. In New York, we were having tens of thousands of votes invalidated every year because somebody went to a wrong polling place, usually no fault of their own. It's because that used to be their polling place, or they walked down the block and went left instead of right, or they were told by somebody. So that'll stop now too. We did not do one thing that I thought was really important. I was the sponsor of the Build Public Renewables Act, which would have allowed for the New York Power Authority to own and operate renewable energy and to sell it to state-owned and city-owned property. That would really turbocharge our transition from fossil fuels to renewables, which I think is so important. That didn't pass, but we have a hearing on it on July 28th. I think it's really important and something that I hope will pass very, very soon. But that is all from me. I know you have a packed night. My office is on 7th Avenue, and my number is 718-788-7221. If you ever need anything in the community or have any questions about what's going on in Albany, do not hesitate to reach out. Cesar, if there's a question or two, I'd love to
Sure.
answer, but I know you have a packed night. I don't want to.
No. If you're able to entertain a couple of questions, I'll recognize some folks. Thank you so much, Bobby, for always coming by and giving us an update. I think I see a couple of hands. Let's go with Julio and then David. Questions for our assembly member.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask about the package of BOE reform bills that didn't make it through the assembly. I think it was like 11 or 12 of them, but I think one of them is the, I'm gonna get it wrong, but I think it's the Kruger-Rosick bill.
Yeah.
But that didn't even come through a vote in the assembly, and what are its chances of getting through in the next legislature?
Julio, you're a great champion of this, and you're a great champion of kind of election reforms and do a great job as the district leader for the 51st Assembly District. We desperately need, I have some BOE reform bills myself. The Kruger-Rosick bill is a great bill and I support that. We need to professionalize it. We need to take the partisanship out of the BOE. We have unfortunately have folks in New York right now who hold political office trying to influence the BOE. And that's very scary after what Donald Trump has done, to other states. So we need to professionalize, take away the partisan nature of it and have real oversight and accountability. And there's a lot of issues because some of it's in the state constitution, some of it is in law. I do support the Kruger bill. I am hopeful that over the next year or two, we will see more of these bills come out and that we will get some meaningful change. I don't know if it's going to be that bill specifically, but I do think there will be some real change, especially coming to the City Board of Elections after some of the things they've done recently has brought them great scrutiny and deservedly so.
Thank you, Bobby, for that response. David, do you have a question for the assembly member?
Yeah, I wanted to hear your thoughts on, the New York City delegation in Albany protecting home rule, especially as it relates to street safety near schools with red light cameras, speed cameras, even things related to street vendors on our sidewalks and so forth. It seems like there's this sort of successive wave of legislation in Albany that looks to preempt New York City's ability to manage our own streets, even if we do it imperfectly. And I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that, or positions, or a way to help support us make sure New York City's taking care of New York City's streets.
It's a great question, David. Look, I agree for New York City home rule, not just for street safety, but for a bunch of things that I think we should allow the city to do its business and not have folks from the suburbs or upstate dictating how New York City should be run. We did, and so I supported the bill to give street control completely back over to the city. I will continue to support that. It only makes sense. Second, when it comes to street safety generally, we didn't get everything done. We did get speed cameras turned on 24 hours a day, which I do think is really helpful. I think that, it made no sense that they would be shut off at night and on weekends. There's more to do. There's more work that all of us need to do, to make sure that it's no longer seen as appropriate to be speeding, and that we, put people in the shoes of pedestrians and cyclists and our children, because obviously there are so many preventable tragedies that go on our streets that, you change people's lives forever for no reason. And so we could do such a better job. And I think that this board has done a pretty good job around smart ideas around streetscape and things like that. But I do support home rule, and I do support the 24 hours, which we did pass, and I support the expansion of all these things. I think that slowing down is a smart thing.
Thank you so much. I think you might have seen my reason for asking the question in the frame earlier when my daughter stepped by. So thank you very much.
Well, I remember your daughters at the parade, the St. Patrick's Day parade. We finally have parades again. So that's a nice thing.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. Thank you, David. Okay, I want to just quickly call on Gladys Bruno. I think you're in the meeting, Gladys. Can you just unmute yourself?
Yeah, I was on I had recorded my attendance on the chat, so I don't know if it was too late for that, but
Thank you. So
I had issues.
So I'm acknowledging your attendance. Thank you, Gladys.
Thank you.
Okay, any other elected officials that we want to recognize at the moment, or are we good with that? Okay, I think no one else is here, so let's keep going on the agenda. So let me, what I'm going to do is, the next item is the Transportation Committee. No vote is required, so I'm going to refer you to.
Cesar, sorry, before we go on, the secretary still needs to officially cast their one vote for the uncontested positions.
Well, so we're not there yet, right? We're going to.
Vote isn't over yet.
The vote isn't over yet. The vote's
Okay.
over at.
We got another 12 minutes, and I'm still trying.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to add Gladys.
No problem.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna move forward, and I'm gonna refer you to the report of the Transportation Committee, and because we have other items to discuss, I'm gonna just do that for all of the reports, for all of the committees that don't have a vote. So Public Safety Committee, I'm gonna refer you to the report. The Economic Development and Waterfront Committee, I'm gonna refer you to the report. The Health Committee, I'm going to refer you to the report. And so that will bring us to the Special Subcommittee on Last Mile Trucking Facilities. So, typically Catherine Walsh would be presenting this report, but fortunately for her, she is on a honeymoon, and she got married over the weekend, so she's obviously not going to be joining us tonight. So I will be giving that report. So I think what I'm going to do is just do a little bit of backtracking to just bring everyone up to speed. Last month during our public meeting, Catherine made a presentation in conjunction with several other stakeholders. related to a text amendment that we're being asked to co-sponsor with the Office of the Assembly Member, Marcela Matenis, and a couple of other stakeholders. I believe the Last Mile Coalition also has will be partnering in this in the text amendment that's going to be submitted. So let's just recap a little bit. We started a committee a year ago, almost a year ago to the date, that specifically focused on last mile trucking facilities. We started it because we all observed, particularly during the pandemic, how these last mile fulfillment distribution centers really rocketed, and we were notified that we would be getting several of these facilities across the council district. We're getting a huge one here in Sunset Park, massive facility, over 1 million square feet, 18 acres. And then the rest will be in the Red Hook area, the Red Hook community, which is part of the council district, not part of the community board district. We felt strongly that we needed to have many questions answered as to the impact that these facilities were going to have in our community, particularly around, most importantly, I would say, around truck traffic and what the consequences of truck traffic would be for our community. This is on top of our community that has already been overburdened by lots of traffic along the BQE and along 3rd Avenue. This is on top of lots and lots of our neighbors and folks who have lost their lives along 3rd Avenue because it's such a contested and congested and dangerous avenue. This is on, we're getting these facilities on top of our community being historically overburdened by environmental burdens, sanitation, you name it. When the administration doesn't want it, they dump it here in this district. So we felt like there needed to be a lot of information gathered. We felt there needed to be a lot of questions responded to. And what we found was that there was no one really able to provide answers. The answers that we had to some very difficult questions around, again, the impact of these facilities. So the committee was created. We started to meet, and we were very intentional about bringing lots of different stakeholders to the table, elected officials, advocates in transportation, in the environment. Outpros was one of the stakeholders that was at the table with us. And the idea was to do a couple of things with the committee, to curate and compile information, and to organize the community around bringing accountability to these massive projects that are coming to the district. And a year later, we are at the point where the assembly member is now at the point of introducing legislation in the assembly to regulate some of these last mile facilities. We're at the point where the council member is also looking for ways to do some regulation of these facilities. And essentially this text amendment is one of the ways that has sort of risen to the top of the many other tools that are out there for us to do some of this regulation. So we were, I think most of us have had an opportunity to look at the text amendments. We were going to vote on this last month, if you all recall, but we had concerns from additional stakeholders in the community that perhaps some of the interests that lie around the industrial waterfront and some of those stakeholders hadn't had the opportunity to really present some information to us about their concerns and the way that they're looking at this text amendment. So what we did was we tabled our vote last month to hear these stakeholders out and to seek additional counsel, legal counsel on the text amendment. So we succeeded in hearing out some of these other stakeholders, and we unfortunately were not able to secure.
You don't have to wait for me.
I'm sorry, can we mute, please, if you're not? Let me just do it right now. Okay, so we were not able to get legal counsel for a lot of different reasons, not the least of which is that we, as a community board, don't always have the resources to pay for lawyers. So I guess, you know, what I want to do at this point before we actually go to a vote on this, I want to give the coalition who is bringing forward this text amendment to just maybe in 2 or 3 minutes, give us a recap of the text amendment so that we actually know what we're voting on. So are there any members of this coalition? I know we were maybe going to have Summer Sandoval, or let me just make sure. Or Rachel Spector, or from, so Summer is from Uprose, Rachel is from Earth Justice, and I think even Kevin Garcia might be here. So is there anyone here from that coalition that can just do a—
Please raise your hand and I will make you a panelist. Cesar, I just wanted to remind all board members there's 5 minutes left to vote. Please, if you have not checked your email, do so now.
Okay, I think Summer is here. So why don't we give Summer about 2 or 3 minutes to just quickly summarize for us the text amendment, and then we'll go to a vote.
Summer should be a panelist now, or becoming a panelist now. And Summer, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, here you go. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Here,
Okay.
MC, you're a panelist now.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, Cesar, for that great recap. Hi, everyone. And thank you all for, you know, tabling or having this vote tonight. So I'm going to do just a quick few-minute recap. I don't know if Rachel Spector is also here. I don't know if you can see if she's here or not. And also upgrade her to panelist, because I know she has a few specific legal perspectives that she can also add in. But just to go quickly recapping for everyone, like Cesar was sharing before, CB7 had created this special subcommittee on last mile trucking about a year ago. Uprose and other members have been active participants since its inception last year. And we have kind of gone through this like co-learning, co-sharing experience with the subcommittee through basically from spring of 21. We have either given public comment and or presented on our findings on what some of the options were to start regulating these last mile trucking facilities. As you all know, the biggest issue we are dealing with right now is that there's no type of environmental or public review or input process, because the Department of City Planning treats these facilities as of right development. So they're not defined in zoning text, therefore they're not being regulated at all, and why they're being built clustered together, really big facilities with no analysis or studies of their actual impacts on the communities. We saw that this was also not just a South Brooklyn or South Brooklyn industrial waterfront issue, that this was actually happening also across the city and in other environmental justice communities, including North Brooklyn, as well as the South Bronx. And so kind of in tandem with the special subcommittee, with the coordination of the New York City Environmental Justice Alliance and fellow member organizations across the city, we created the Last Mile Coalition, which worked, like I said, in tandem with the subcommittee on exploring and really drawing on case studies throughout the country on what's been done to address last mile facilities. This isn't an issue that is unique to New York City. This is something that's really been a major challenge and a really big, not only environmental justice, but health issue across the country with pedestrian safety, the high number of trucks and pollution in addition to existing sources of pollution. So this was a really big issue. Like I said, we drew upon and have shared a number of case studies and efforts across the country, from California to Massachusetts and other cities and states, of what they've been doing also to start to define these facilities. So that's kind of been the major lesson learned with what's been done across the country, is that the very first important precedent and step that needs to happen is to define them, because without definition, we don't know what we're trying to do or what we're trying to regulate. And so that's the heart of what this zoning text amendment is trying to do, is to define what we're talking about, and then require certain requirements. So basically, to reiterate, we're not trying to destroy an industry. We're not trying to inhibit or prevent an industry. We're trying to basically draw a line and set specific requirements for how this industry can develop in a way that make them good neighbors, that they don't allow them just to walk into their community and do whatever they want with no community input or environmental study or trucking study on what the impacts of these giant facilities are. So that is, like I said, at the heart of what the zoning text amendment does. It defines what these last mile facilities are, and it introduces the need for a special permit if these facilities have a threat of a disproportionate adverse impact on the community, either like by the size of the actual facility and its activities. And then the last thing I'll just end with like Cesar said, the ask on the table is for CB7 to join as a co-sponsor. We have 7 co-sponsors on the application now, including Assemblywoman Marcela Mitanez, as well as Councilwoman Alexa Vilas, and representative organizations from impacted communities across the city. So I'm going to stop there. I don't know if Rachel's on or she is able to add anything else around timelines or legal input that she also wants to add in. Thank you.
Thank you, Summer. That was very, very helpful. Rachel, a couple minutes if you want. Otherwise, we're gonna go to the vote.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I think Summer gave a great overview. My name is Rachel Spector. I am an attorney at Earth Justice, and our organization has been providing legal assistance to the Last Mile Coalition on this proposal to amend the city zoning resolution. So just in terms of the process, if folks, I think everyone here, by virtue of being on a community board, is familiar with the concept of special permits. A special permit basically sets forth a number of conditions that a developer needs to meet in order to get a permit, and entails an environmental review, as well as going through a ULURP process. So that would mean that now the community board would have greater say, as well as the community, in the siting of these facilities, as well as ensuring that they meet certain standards to basically minimize their impacts on the community, minimize traffic, show a plan, like what are you doing to minimize traffic? What are you doing for pedestrian safety? What are you doing to reduce truck emissions from your facility, use other modes of transportation? These are all going to be considerations if the Department of City Planning moves this application forward. And so in terms of the process, we anticipate that there will be a back and forth with the Department of City Planning to ensure that what we come up with as the text amendment moves forward is workable for everyone and fits into the zoning resolution. And I think, Community Board 7 being part of it ensures that you would have a place at the table as those discussions move forward. And really the goal is to, I think, have a more comprehensive planning process around these facilities as they multiply across the city, and ensure that as each one is proposed, that there's comprehensive review and community input into its siting, as well as ensuring that the facility meets a number of conditions. And I guess the last thing I would say is we've heard from a lot of the companies, the logistics companies, that they have promises that they're going to use electric trucks and they're going to do all this. So they've made these commitments already, but they're not necessarily going to follow through on them unless they're required to do so. So we think that this is a way for the city to manage these facilities in a responsible way.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Summer. And I just kind of want to add to this conversation that I think from my perspective, one of the most important tasks that particularly the city council has ahead of it is the reforming of our charter to deal with as of right development, right? I think that is probably one of the biggest challenges that we have. And until that happens, I think what we're trying to do here is one tool. Is it a perfect tool? No, I think the perfect tool is the revision of the charter to really deal head on with as of right properties. But it is a tool that's good enough for now. And that gives us some opportunity to have a direct line of input and some opportunity for some of these developers to have accountability to what they're proposing. Again, particularly in communities like ours that are historically been underserved, historically been overburdened. This text amendment, it really allows us that opportunity. So with that, I'm going to move that we vote on supporting the community board becoming a co-applicant for this text amendment. And I will entertain questions and comments before we actually go to vote. So let's start with Daniel Murphy. I'm sorry, Dan, we lost you, or you're muted.
Dan, you're muted.
Apologies. So I get a sense of this what we're being asked to vote for right now from the report and from our guests. But I wasn't at the subcommittee meetings, and that's on me. And I haven't read the text amendment. As someone who works generally with brick and mortar retails as a profession, I'm no fan of the online onslaught on retail. But a text amendment is very specific. The text amendment is very specific language, and I'd like to know it before I vote on it. And so I hope that Alexa brings this to the council and introduces it as legislation. She has the power to legislate with her colleagues, and so does Marcella. We're very proud of our former members who's moved on to a higher level, but not knowing what exactly is in the amendment, and I guess it's too long to read for the report. Then I'm going to abstain from voting on this.
Thank you, Dan. Nick?
I apologize to step out for a moment, but I don't believe that we went through the concerns that were raised in the last meeting regarding this. And those should be probably discussed a little bit more, just so that there's a context to this. I don't know if Jessie Solomon from SBDIC is on, and perhaps that she could go through some of the, highlights from that particular board meeting, just so that everyone is fully aware of, I guess, the counterpoint, if you will.
If she's not available, we do have the minutes, and I can go ahead and
I believe she's here.
Oh, great. I mean, I think if we can give Jessie panelist status and give her 3 minutes, just like we did the other folks, that I think that would be great. And in the meantime, Cynthia, do you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, so first I'll state that because I've worked with the Southwest Brooklyn Industrial Development Corporation, I'll be voting present because they expressed hesitation about this in the last meeting. And just sort of echoing Nick's concerns. The last meeting we had, well, I mean, look, like I personally have been boycotting Amazon for years, and I'm not a fan of the last mile trucking, and I understand all the reasons why we need to do this, but I'm also wondering why there's such a rush and why this can't wait until September, since we haven't had the legal review that was decided on in a previous meeting. And also because the Industrial Jobs Coalition and the Southwest Brooklyn Industrial Development Corporation at the last meeting expressed that they had just learned about this and had not been brought on board. And if you think about our district, we're one of the biggest industrial sort of neighborhoods. And some of their concerns, it's not that they didn't think this could be accomplished, but the way that the language is crafted, there were concerns about current businesses that employ, in some cases, hundreds of people that do warehousing and distribution of like fresh produce, for example, getting sort of caught in this sort of, basically unintended consequences could have a disproportionate impact potentially on businesses in our community and or potential for expansion. And so I guess my question is why would we, one of the last sort of sentiments that was expressed at that meeting was that if we could have a little bit more time, that the industrial community could engage and become, supporters if they actually have the opportunity to have a little bit more time. And so I realized that this has been an ongoing process, but that was one kind of community, and especially the businesses in our community, that I think it would be a good idea to reach out to. So again, I wanted to participate in this discussion. People know that I, have worked with people in the industrial community, but I just wanted to raise this concern because I think we can get there, and so did the people on the call, but they did ask for whether it would be reasonable to have more time. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Okay, so let's hear from Jessie, because I think she was the one who brought, and her coalition of folks brought some of the top level concerns for them. So let's hear those out, and then we'll go from there. Jessie, are you on?
Hi, everyone. Yes, thanks for letting me speak spontaneously. I appreciate it, and appreciate Cynthia and Nick, you guys bringing up that meeting that we had and that you all attended. So SBIDC was one of the stakeholders that Cesar was referring to, that the special subcommittee on last mile met with a couple of weeks ago, the first week of June. It was SBIDC and also almost all of the other industrial business service providers. Those are groups that provide services to industrial manufacturing businesses. And we are together a coalition called the Industrial Jobs Coalition. And we've advocated for many years for policy changes to shore up the boundaries of the IBZ and protect local manufacturing in Sunset Park, Red Hook, Gowanus, and all of the industrial business zones in the city. The reason why, you all probably, most of the community board saw the letter that I wrote to the community board expressing some concerns about the unintended consequences that a special permit could have. First and foremost, I understand that it won't impact current businesses, but we are seeing tremendous growth in a lot of different industrial sectors, especially since the pandemic. And so we have some concerns about the unintended consequences on future businesses or the growth of existing businesses in the distribution sector. But we're encouraged that the Last Mile Coalition has recently reached out to our partners that and said, hey, let's keep the conversation going and meet again to to discuss this. So, and in my letter to the community board, I also made clear that in addition to more time, it would just be great to have input on the language here. And while SBIDC and all of our other industrial business service providers, some of us may be supportive of a special permit, some of us may not. But I think there's altogether a lot of knowledge because our coalition has fought for other special permits in the past, which took years and years and years and faced many hurdles. And those special permits, the applicant was actually the city. It was not, a community board. But because what's being proposed in front of you tonight is a citywide zoning text amendment, we also felt that it was really important to engage other community boards, especially in industrial zones throughout the entire city, because freight and distribution is a major policy that the city is looking at today. Freight NYC is a great plan to refer to. And this is not just going to impact Community Board 7, right? This is going to impact the entire city. And so therefore, I think we just wanted more time to take this to leadership and the industrial and manufacturing community elsewhere in New York City. And I think that's it for my concerns. I mean, just because you vote to be the applicant doesn't mean that there's not more time to meet with our groups. But really, my key concern here is that even if you vote to, move forward and be the applicant on this, I understand, I may disagree with this as the main tool that we should focus on, but I understand that the community board wants to get in front of it. However, I want to strongly advocate that before filing the application, the applicants come together with the Industrial Jobs Coalition and with business leaders as well to understand the impacts that the zoning text amendment will have as written. And even if we get to a perfectly written zoning text amendment, what implications that will have on the business community moving forward. So again, that's where my number one concern is, like, before filing the application, let's show a good faith commitment to working with groups that represent the industrial and manufacturing sector in New York City to really understand what a challenging process it is to fight for a special permit. Again, that took years and led to a lot of speculation. And, those special permits were for hotels and self-storage and IBZs. And honestly, they had some pretty negative and severe consequences, some backfiring that happened against the manufacturing sector because of them. We've got some cautionary tales to share. We've already shared them a little bit with the Last Mile Coalition and with CB7 Special Subcommittee, and want to keep doing that and let other groups throughout the city have input in here as well.
Thank you, Jesse. So I guess at this point, maybe Rachel or Summer, can you speak to the whole, like, why now and what happens if we vote tonight, and how the process is going to work moving forward, particularly around I think what I've heard all along is that us agreeing to be in partnership with the submission of this special text amendment doesn't lock anything in, but it starts a conversation with the city, and I guess I want to be reassured again, and I think Jesse wants to be reassured that we will continue to be at the table as this process moves forward, because as you're seeing, there are lots and lots of different interests and ideas, and we don't want to be shut out of the conversation moving forward. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure, I can speak to it. And I think, as Jesse said, it takes a long time for an amendment to the zoning resolution, right? A text amendment, particularly a citywide text amendment. And I think, for the reasons that Jesse's raising, right? This is something that DCP, we hope, will take seriously. And in doing so, will consult with affected stakeholders in the process. I think in terms of crafting the language, again, like I said earlier, we will work with DCP in this process. And there's, what we don't want to do as the Last Mile Coalition, as advocates, is create problems for businesses that are not last mile trucking facilities, right? That's absolutely not the intention. And so if there are concerns about that from the city, from other folks, we can work with that. And I think the idea is these facilities are going in now. There's speculation happening now in terms of buying up land. And so the goal is to really put something in front of the city to get them to move on it. Because I think as the subcommittee has seen, you know, the subcommittee has been trying to get agencies and folks to take action, and it's been very, very slow, and there's promises of studies. And so I think the goal is to put something down so that they have to start taking it seriously, and the conversation will keep going.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, we're going to continue with board members. Antoinette, you have a question or a comment?
I just have one quick question for the Last Mile Coalition. So just to clarify, if Community Board 7 doesn't sign on, would this stop the zoning text amendment from moving forward, or will it move forward despite us signing on?
Rachel or Summer, can you help us respond to that question?
Sure. You know, I think the Last Mile Coalition and our partners, elected official partners, do plan to put something forward, whether or not the community board joins. I think the community boards have a special role in being designated by the charter as one of the entities that is, you know, pointed out as having the authority to put in text amendment applications. We would welcome your participation, especially since you've been such a leader on this issue and are directly affected. But I think the idea is that the coalition will do it regardless. It might be more challenging for us. And Summer, I don't know if you have any other additions.
Yeah, I'll just highlight the one of the comments I put in the chat, in that just reiterating, submitting the application doesn't lock anything in. Like, we're submitting an application knowing that the text is going to change. And that's regardless of where the text gets to. You know, there was the comment of like getting it to a quote unquote perfect amendment. Even at that point, submitting it all that means is kicking off a official conversation with DCP, and that knowing that no matter what is in that application that's submitted, it's going to get changed because it's a negotiation, and because it's being able to fully look at all of these conversations. So the importance of the invitation to CB7 to join as a co-applicant, to have that ensured seat there, you know, is to be privy to all information, you know, to really you know, be there for the whole process. Because yeah, is the zoning text amendment like perfect as it is? No, but it is a very necessary and a very important tool to be able to start official conversations. I think if anyone here has been part of any of the last handful of special subcommittee meetings where DCP, Department of City Planning, or Department of Transportation were present, all of them do the same presentation and then end with, but there's nothing we can do because they're not defined. And so we can spend a whole nother year of having these giant, you know, 1.2 million square feet facilities pop up and potentially have even more adverse impacts on the community, or we can start an official process to bring this issue in front of DCP of saying this needs to be defined, let's do it together. And so again, you know, knowing that no matter what shape the zoning text amendment will get to or is at, it will be changed. And it will be, the rush is to start this process knowing that it's going to be an uphill process. It's going to be a long process. And the ask really today is, hey, let's do this together, because we've already been on this year-long journey together. So let's do it together, because we have the shared interest of protecting our working industrial waterfronts, creating well-paying, sustainable jobs, and, you know, really protecting that history of walk to work community here in South Brooklyn and, you know, industrial areas. So that's really the heart of this ask.
Thank you so much, Summer. Okay, let's go to our board members, and then we're gonna keep moving. So Nick.
So originally, when we put this up for a resolution, there was supposed to be a legal review. To my knowledge, that legal review has not occurred. So I would imagine we'd have to put forth an amendment to this stating that the legal review, if we were to vote tonight, would have to happen later, but someone would have to vote on that in order for that to occur. I don't know if we need to talk to our parliamentarian regarding that issue. But I think that's one thing that we do need to figure out now if we're going to vote on this tonight. Number two.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Number two, I'd be interested in hearing from the coalition if the community board had issues with particular language down the road, how that gets worked in. And if our input is counter to what the coalition wants to do, whether the community board's voice would be heard and listened to, or if the parties would ignore our comments. And I'd be very interested to hear that, considering that there is a tangible benefit to having the community board sign on to the application, as a number of fees, from what I understand, and other things associated with the city are waived if a community board is either the applicant or co-applicant.
Rachel, did you want to jump in, or I can go ahead?
I think that's a really good question. I would say that, you know, we would all work together and we would want to come up with a process to develop consensus, or to, you know, make sure that all the co-applicants can make decisions in a way that makes sense for us. So I think it's a good question. I also don't know, you know, I think it's going to, like we've been saying, there will be some back and forth with DCP. So it's not, I don't think there's going to be like a situation where any one party has the say so, and ultimately it's up to city planning and city planning commission to move this forward. So, you know, I think that it's a good question, and we would need to figure out a way to work together and make sure we can have consensus.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add is that we wouldn't have extended the invitation if we didn't want the community board's input. And then two, that as a co-applicant, there's the input would most likely be louder than if not.
Okay, thank you. Dan, you have a question?
I do. As Azar said before, this last mile zoning will affect, and the text amendment will affect Red Hook, as well as the industrial parts of Sunset Park. And that's Marcella's, the Assemblywoman's and the Councilwoman's districts. So it's right that they're concerned with it. But I was wondering if you reached out to Community Board 6 about this text amendment, and asked them for their support, and I guess their input as well. So that's just yet, and I just want to just say this. I mean, Nick pretty much made a pretty good summation of this. There's a lot of holes in this, and it's not even the final. It's not even the final thing, and yet it is a text amendment. You know, it is a legal thing that we're presenting with. I assume, because I haven't, from what my understanding of this. So, I mean, so I'll just leave that question there about Community Board 6 and say that I'm still, you know, my position from the beginning is only solidified. Thanks.
Yeah, so can anyone shed any light on the Community Board 6 participation? Or
is Tavina on? I don't know if she's on this meeting, but she's been on some of the other meetings. Tavina Willis is part of the Red Hook initiative and also a co-applicant to this application. Most of the communications has been, you know, through her as being the CB6 person who is also involved in the application and co-submitting the application. So I'm not speak on her behalf. I don't know if she's on the meeting and wants to share anything, but she's an active member of the coalition, co-applicant to the application, CB6 member.
Okay, thank you. Cindy Van den Bosch.
Yeah, so just a couple of things. One is that some of the concerns that were expressed in the last meeting were around language and definitions that, for those who weren't there, again, some of these organizations that spoke, industrial organizations, thought that there could be a way that they could be brought along and be part of this, in support of this, but that having, a month to not even a month to look at this wasn't enough time to do the due diligence. And similarly, like if it's about language and definitions, then that goes back to having legal review. And that's the thing about the definitions is because that's where you're like, why not try to get this right and give ourselves the summer? I mean, we're not talking delaying this for years, but does it really harm anything to engage the industrial businesses in our community to see what they have to say and to do some due diligence with legal review? I'm sort of flummoxed. I'm not sort of asking to push this way down the road because I know that there's an urgency, right? Like none of us want to see, I think there's plenty of manufacturing businesses that are probably opposed to this, but we also have to look at the realities of how the language and the definitions shake out and how that could affect the sort of jobs in our industrial zone, which by the way, which I mentioned in the meeting, industrial jobs pay more than a lot of jobs in the retail sector. It's why the community board has it in our, has a priority to retain the industrial sector. And so we just want to make sure there aren't unintended consequences. And I just don't understand why we wouldn't buy ourselves a little bit of time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Cindy. John Johnson, did you have a question?
I have just a quick comment. Why I'm deeply concerned about the environmental issues relating to last mile trucking. I'm also deeply concerned with a city that's hemorrhaging jobs left and right. And our unemployment is not the average unemployment compared to the rest of the state. And my third concern is, I think if this wasn't big corporations versus the little guy, I think this would be a different conversation. I think we should be looking at technology issues, transportation issues, but not regulating jobs from coming into the city. We need every job possible. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Julio and then David.
So I was just reviewing the minutes from the previous meeting, and it did, back to Nick's point, it did require legal review, and that hasn't happened as of yet. So I just wanted to make that clarification. But I did wanted to, I would like to move to refer the motion that's on the floor back to the ad hoc committee for trucking facilities for further discussion.
Okay, so let's hear from David and then, so you just made a motion to.
That's a motion, so I'll withdraw any questions.
And it needs to be seconded, sorry.
If there's someone who wants to second that, okay? And so let's vote on this motion to refer, so let's be clear now. There was Julio put forth a motion to refer this back to the committee. Nick just seconded it, and now we'll take a roll call vote. This, I'm not gonna do through unanimous consent. I think we need to be on the record. So Jeremy or Maria, can you call the roll, please?
I've got it. So board members, I'm gonna mute you. When I unmute you, please, when I call your name, please unmute yourself, cast your vote, and then mute yourself again.
Jeremy, just 1 second, just to be clear, okay? So this is going to be, if you vote yes, we're referring this back to the committee, and we're not going to continue discussing this text amendment tonight. If you vote no, then that means that you want to vote on the text amendment tonight, okay? So just wanted to make that really clear.
Thank you, Cesar. So we will start with Ramon Acevedo. Amel Afzal.
Yes.
Thank you. Sandra Alfonso.
Yes.
Thank you. Grisel Amador.
Yes.
Thank you. Genesis Aquino.
Yes.
Thank you. Nicholas Azadian.
Yes.
Thank you. Joan Body.
Yes.
Thank you. Stacy Boyd.
Yes.
Thank you. Samuel Breitbart.
Yes.
Thank you. Gladys Bruno.
Yes.
Thank you. That only counts as one vote. Joseph Canali.
No.
Yes.
Thank you. Joseph Canali was the only one voting there. Whoever that was, please mute yourself. Jerry Chan.
Yes.
Thank you. Justin Collins.
Yes.
Thank you. Christina Das. Christina Das. John DeLuper.
Yes.
Thank you. Beatrice DeSapio.
Yes.
Thank you. David Estrada.
Yes.
Thank you. Cynthia Felix.
Yes.
Thank you. John Fontillis.
No.
Thank you. Ken Fung.
Yes.
Thank you. John Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you. Cynthia Gonzalez. Diana Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thank you. Hector Gonzalez. Hector Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thank you. Kenny Guan.
No.
Thank you. Nicole Huang.
No.
Thank you. John Johnston.
Yes.
Thank you. Beverly Kleinman.
Yes.
Thank you. Wyco. Wyco. Barbara Lee.
Yes.
Thank you. Christina Lem.
Yes.
Thank you. Jimmy Lee.
Yes.
Thank you. Leonette Lopez.
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Mack.
Yes.
Thank you. Antoinette Martinez.
No.
Thank you. Arelis Martinez. Marilyn Melman.
Yes.
Thank you. Myra Molina.
Yes.
Thank you. Dan Murphy.
Yes.
Thank you. Julio Pena III.
No.
Thank you. Ravika Rajkishan.
No.
Thank you. Karen Rolnick. Karen
Yes.
Rolnick.
Yes.
Thank you. Patricia Ruiz.
Yes.
Thank you. Damaris Santiago.
Yes.
Thank you. Sam Sierra.
Yes.
Thank you. Victor Swinton.
Yes.
Thank you. Cindy Vandenbosch.
Present.
Thank you. Catherine Walsh. Fred Wolf. Cesar Zuniga.
No.
Thank you.
No.
Cesar, the motion to send back to committee passes 34 in favor, 8 opposed, 0 abstentions, 1 voting present.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And so, so noted. And this is going to be referred back to the committee, and we will circle back to it my expectation is in September. So thank you everyone for that, and let's keep moving. So I guess I want to do a couple of things now. I know our assembly member has been patiently waiting, and I apologize for not recognizing you sooner, Marcella, but before we move on with our agenda, I want to give you the opportunity to, I want to give you the floor. So Assembly Member Matenis, go ahead.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Can you guys hear me? You can hear me?
We can, yep.
Okay, thank you so much. Just wanted to talk a little bit about happening. Not so much great stuff happened this session. The budget was really bad. The stuff that came down the pipeline was really bad. At a time when a lot of people are facing evictions, we were trying to fight hard to add additional protections for tenants that are in unregulated units. So these are mostly market rate tenants that have no right to lease and face no defense evictions, meaning that the landlords can just decide that they don't want to rent to them anymore. And it's a real shame, especially with how many people are having housing insecurity now. We're hearing that some tenants are getting $300, $400, $500 rent increases. So if anyone's having some issues, please notify our office so we can try and help. I know there's been a lot of issues around Con Edison and the rate hikes. They're actually in the process of also asking for the state to also give them the authority to raise the rates. I know that the bills have been coming really high. Another really good bill, and I don't know if Bobby was on and he talked about it. This is the Build Public Renewables Act, and it's essentially would give an opportunity for New York to actually build its own public renewables. It's part of it would be in line with the CCLP, and also just moving forward, it's something that we can do a long term and actually start attacking now. It got really close, but didn't pass, and that's something that we really need to keep pushing. Gun violence and security. I know there's a lot of concerns. We're in the process of trying to put together a town hall and have a larger conversation around this. The issue with gun violence is really an issue at the federal level where our government is failing us, but we were able to pass some legislation at the state level, and I can share some more of that later. Again, similar with the reproductive rights, wanting to make sure that people still have protections at the state level. I don't want to take up too much time. Session is over, so I'll be around. A lot of work and organizing to do. Some stuff, particularly for homeowners, that I wanted to mention. Sorry. At the state level, homeowners are going to be getting tax rebate checks. So please let me know if you received it. I'm still waiting to hear from folks about that. There's also a gas tax. So from June through December, the state is not collecting its portion of taxes, and it should be passed down to the consumer, where you're seeing a difference at the gas tank. Please let me know if you're seeing that. Part of my concern when they passed the legislation was that the corporations were going to take up those savings and we weren't going to see them. But also, just so folks understand and know, the taxes that are collected through the gas actually pay for the MTA and the infrastructure. So while the state legislature decided to not collect that, that's revenue that we're going to need to take from somewhere else. Somewhat good stuff was money put in for childcare. So people that are making about $175,000 and under can actually qualify for childcare services. And unfortunately, it wasn't universal like we wanted to do it, and it also doesn't include our immigrant children. So it's a really tough year. A lot of members just are afraid to tackle what they call controversial bills because they're afraid of losing their seats. But this is something that I wasn't sent to Albany to rubber stamp their stuff. It's actually there to kind of push them more and demand more. And this was just a very disappointing year. But that just means that we need to keep organizing, and we have a lot more work to do. Looking forward to seeing folks in the district. Any questions?
Thank you, Assemblymember. Do you have a couple minutes? Yeah, okay. John, go ahead for Marcella.
Hey, thank you, Assembly Member. I did have one follow-up. You mentioned about childcare services that were funded in the state bill. Can you tell us a little bit more about which services were funded and how one goes about applying?
So they're still in the process of kind of like setting up the infrastructure for that to happen. But it's for families that make 175,000 and under would be able to qualify for free childcare. And there's also additional funding for the actual childcare centers to kind of like up their pay. So as soon as we get more information, we'll share it too. And again, these things are starting to come down the pipeline. So we once we have more information, we'll definitely share it with the community board. We want to make sure people know that this stuff is available and we want them to participate.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Any other questions for the Assemblymember before we let her go? Okay, I don't think I see any. Again, always appreciate you, Assemblymember, for coming and giving us an update, and we'll see you around in the community. Have a good night.
Yeah, just if I can just chime in one last thing.
Sure,
just
sure.
about the vote and the text amendment. The whole purpose of the text amendment is to ensure that we are getting actual and real industrial jobs and not things like the Amazon warehouses. We want to make sure that people have living wage jobs. So just because someone's offering jobs, we need to make sure that they're the right kind of jobs for our folks. And just so that, you know, again, I would like us in a perfect world to agree on the language. However, this was just to start the application. There's going to be, you know, opportunities to talk and really dialogue about what the finished product is going to be. And so for folks that don't know, we were looking at six centers coming up in the pipeline, 5 of them that were supposed to be built and completed by the end of this year in Red Hook. We're now up to 8. So the longer this takes, the harder this becomes. If folks remember also, that was part of the issue with the Industry City rezoning, and some of the businesses that are coming into manufacturing aren't really considering actual manufacturing jobs the way we think about it. And so this is really to kind of change it. And so I want to kind of throw that out there. It's not just about the facilities, it's about the amount of trucks and the pollution that they're doing. I'm not sure that the infrastructure and the roads are going to be able to hold so much weight. And then just, you know, pedestrian safety.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Okay, let's circle back to the election. Do we have some results? Joan, I'll give you the floor now.
Okay, guys, here we go. Julio Pena is running unopposed. If the secretary will cast 1 vote for Julio.
Yes. Is that what I should say? Yes. Yes, I cast a vote for Julio.
Cindy casts 1 vote for Julio Pena. Thank you. Julio, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
First vice chair, running with Nick Azadian and Cynthia Vandenbosch. Nick received 19 votes. Cindy received 22 votes. Cindy, congratulations. You are now first vice chair.
Congratulations, Cindy.
Second vice chair is running unopposed, Pat Ruiz. Cindy, if you would say aye, Cindy Vandenbosch casts 1 vote for second vice chair, Pat Ruiz.
I, Cindy Vandenbosch, cast 1 vote for Pat Ruiz.
Thank you. Congratulations, Pat.
Thank you. Good to see another woman on that table.
It's our pleasure, Pat. Secretary is Karen Rolnick, who is also running unopposed. If our secretary will cast 1 vote for Secretary Karen Rolnick.
I I'd be honored to cast one vote for Karen Rolnick for secretary.
Thank you. Congratulations, Karen. You now can say a lot of words.
Thank you. Honored.
Congratulations.
Assistant Secretary is running John DeLupa and John Johnson. John DeLupa received 30 votes. John Johnson received 12. John DeLupa, congratulations. You are now Assistant Secretary.
Congratulations, John.
Thank you.
For Treasurer, running is Sandra Alfonso and Cynthia Felix. Alfonso received 12 votes. Cynthia Felix Jeffries received 27 votes. Cynthia Felix, congratulations. You are now treasurer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Congratulations, Cynthia.
Community Outreach Coordinator, running is Antoinette Martinez and Cesar Zagonda. Antoinette received 15 votes. Cesar received 28 votes. Cesar, congratulations. You are now our coordinator.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you, everyone.
Welcome. For Sergeant at Arms, Victor Swinton is running unopposed. If our treasurer will cast one vote for Victor Swinton.
Yes, with pleasure. I vote for Victor Swinton for Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you. Congratulations, Victor. You're with us again.
Thank you very much.
Assistant Sergeant at Arms is Sam Sierra, also running unopposed. Our secretary will cast one vote for Sam Sierra.
I'd be grateful to cast one vote for Sam Sierra for Assistant Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you. Congratulations, Sammy. And that concludes our election for this year. Thank you,
Okay,
everybody.
So thank you all. Congratulations to all of the new officers. I want to just take a 15 seconds to thank Joan Body for not just all of her service throughout so many years, but also for stepping up at the last minute to chair this committee. We had a different chair who was not reappointed, and Joan very aptly stepped up and ran an amazing process. So thank you, Joan. Thank you for everything you do for this board and for the work that you did on this.
It's my pleasure, folks. And yes, I've been here a lot of years. This last March, I celebrated my 30th year, and it's been my pleasure all these years. And it's really a wonder. All of the wonderful things that this community board has done over the years that, you know, we really don't recognize. I'm speechless at times, which is
Thank you, Joan.
good for me.
Joan, thank you. Really appreciate all your work. Okay. And also, I obviously can't move forward without thanking the staff. The staff really took this on. This was unprecedented for us. We're you know, all of the Zoom stuff really throws a lot of complications into our processes, and the staff really rose to the occasion in this instance as well. So Jeremy, Maria, Natasha, thank you. Yeah, let's keep moving forward. Okay, so we've already done the roll call, so we're now going to go to elected officials or representatives. Are there any folks signed up to speak on behalf of elected officials?
We have several reps. You could raise your hand or I could call on them.
You can go ahead and call them, Jeremy. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I have Edward Sarna. Edward, you can unmute yourself. Edward? Oh. Edward, you can unmute yourself.
Edward, are you there?
Oh, now I can unmute myself. Okay. Hello, everyone. Edward Turner, Chief of Staff for Councilmember Alexia Vilas. I guess I'll start with congratulating the folks who just won their elections and also for the new appointees to the board. We're really excited about the new members. If you take a quick glance, we have a lot of powerful women that made it on, including my long friend, Christina Das, who's a really great lawyer. And Jerry, of course, who's been doing a lot of great work in the Asian community. So congrats to them as well. I'll start with the vote that was cast on Monday. For the New York City 2023 fiscal budget, the council member voted no. Over the course of the weekend heading into the vote, our office received over 850 emails, dozens of phone calls, folks that went up to the council member in person as she was out in the community, who really stood against the budget cuts that our school is going to face. And to put it in perspective, all of our D38 schools, for the exception of 2, will face cuts this upcoming year. And in one case, the Longfellow School, they're looking to at almost a 60% cut. So, that to us was abhorrent. There were some wins in the budget. There is progress on transparency. For instance, NYPD for the first time ever will have to list more than one item appropriation. But again, our view is that without accountability, transparency means very little. And so it would do little to stem the constant overruns of budgets that agency sees in its overtime without delivering material results. And so we also voted against it because the mayor is allocated 100% of the public housing investments into RAD conversions, which we know are market-driven solutions. And through the work on our public housing committee, we know that the RAD program still has many issues around its data collection, like benchmarks and metrics. It has issues around resident engagement. And in some cases, residents are reporting that after conversions, the promised quality and repairs were not materialized. And so we will continue to fight. There's always next year, and we will continue to advocate for the items that, she was elected to push forward, which is fully funded schools, affordable housing, and real public safety. I want to thank Dennis Flores of El Grito del Sunset Park, the parade participants, the 72nd Precinct, Deputy Inspector Castro, and the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety, Danny Moran, and the residents of the 48th Street for a successful Puerto Rican Day Parade and Festival on 48th Street. It was tremendous. It was great. We had violence interrupters on the ground should any issues arise, and none arose. We met over several occasions, and I think the hard work that went into that planning to make sure that, folks, voice concerns, but that we also have responses for it, ended up leading to a very incredible, successful events with 0 instances that were reported of any situations. And so lastly, I'll end with 2 events. We have a free fitness event in Sunset Park this Saturday. There's going to be Zumba at 10 a.m. in the park by the flagpole, followed by boxing workout that's going to be led by trainers from our very own Sweatbox Brooklyn gym. And that'll be at 11. So encourage folks to get your Zumba and boxing on. And lastly, Red Hook Last Mile. We have a forum on June 23rd. That's a Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. at PS 15, which is 71 Sullivan Street. It is co-sponsored by CB6, and we're going to have the EDC, DOT, and DCP, which is Department of City Planning, come present. I sat here and heard the robust conversation around the text amendment, but that is only but one tool in the box. I believe it was Dan Murphy who said that the councilwoman should use her platform to legislate, and we're doing just that. And so this forum is to both update the Red Hook community on what we're doing on our legislation, but also to hear, what the agencies have to say on this, which from what Summer said is not much. They'll say that last mile facilities are not defined in any law, in any charter, in any document. And so as of now, they're allowed to go up as of right. And these facilities in Red Hook alone it's projected to add over 3,000 trucks onto their roads. And that's at a time where we're not seeing significant advancement in freight. We're hearing that EV is going to come out in 2030, and this is from Amazon itself. And so again, we really need to be pushing this issue for the folks in Red Hook. That fight has come and gone, and we're responding. We're in a responsive mode. There's one facility that is scheduled to come online in Sunset Park, but I think the urgency from the advocates on their text amendment is that we've sort of didn't respond to it in time in Red Hook, but there's still time to prevent that from happening here. But you know, everyone is entitled to take their timely approach, but for us, we need to look at the residents of Red Hook and fight for them. So invite folks to that event, and then should anyone have questions, you could always forward them to me at eastcerna@council.nyc.gov.
Thank you, Edward. Jeremy, go ahead. Continue with the list, please.
I believe there's a board member with their hand up with a question.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I just saw that. Daniel Murphy, and then it's, you know.
Hey, Edward. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Dan?
I'm good. I know. So I think because of the last mile facilities, 90% of them in your district, or I mean, that's a number I heard. I'm not quite. I don't know if it's 90, but most of them, let's say, are in Red Hook, last mile facilities. I mean, am I correct?
I don't know about the number, but the majority are in Red Hook. There is one, again, scheduled to come to Sunset Park, but it hasn't gotten here yet.
So that leads to my question. Then why is, if there's such urgency, why is Community Board 6 hosting a meeting next week when we were asked to vote on this last month?
That I would turn over to the advocates. You know, there's always strategy involved in the world and how we move these things forward. But when it comes to, just quickly, when it comes to the coalition partners, it's a coalition. So even though we're the council member, you know, when you're in a coalition, you have to listen to membership. So again, that text amendment and what you guys were asked to vote on is in partnership. It's not something that, you know, is unilaterally decided by our office.
Okay, we're actually going to move on because we are referring this back to committee. So Genesis. Genesis Aquino.
Yeah. Would you explain more about RAD? Because RAD, you said the mayor put most of the public housing funds to the RAD program and not NYCHA directly, correct?
Yep.
I got confused by what you said.
And not the majority, 100% of public housing investments in this city's budget will go to RAD.
So it's not really public housing investment, it's just privatization of public housing investments.
Yes,
right?
And that's why we voted no for the budget, because we do not believe that private market-driven solutions, or quote solutions, that are profit-driven are gonna deliver for the residents of NYCHA. And again, we've had council hearings on this where residents themselves testified as to their concerns with RAD. The CCOP, which is the City Council of Presidents, which is a group that represents all the TAs, the tenant associations across the city, do not support RAD or PAC. You'll often hear PAC as well. So they don't support RAD or PAC.
Yeah, it's very bad. So I guess NYCHA, the only money NYCHA received was from local initiatives from the city council members, right? Not no speakers fund, anything.
Well, I'll have to circle around. I know council members, typically give money to like tenant associations for their programming. But insofar as like capital, I'll have to circle around to see if council gives money. I don't think so, actually, because it's all adopted, so no. But your question as to like where money is going to go into NYCHA from, given that the city isn't contributing, it'll be from the state and the federal.
Okay.
Thank you, Genesis. Thank you, Edward, as always. Jeremy, who's next?
I have Anastasia Yaskova from the Mayor's Community Assistance Unit next. Anastasia, you could unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Jeremy. Good evening, Cesar. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm happy to join you. Just major, give me one moment. Let me pull this up real quick. So this month, we celebrate Pride Month, Caribbean American Heritage Month. We celebrate Father's Day this coming Sunday, and also Juneteenth. And for the first time, we are actually having the day off on Monday. due to Juneteenth this year. And this month is also called Gun Violence Awareness Month. And since taking the office, Mayor Adams has taken significant steps to invest in both interventive and preventive models of public safety. And that includes unveiling the blueprint to end gun violence, expanding the summer youth employment program to 100,000 slots, expanding the OE summer rising program to 110,000 seats, introducing Summer Boost, which will provide summer enrichment opportunities to 25,000 public charter school students, baselining 13.5 million in fiscal year for 2023 for Fair Futures, and rolling out the NYPD neighborhood safety teams in our communities. That'll be it for the month of June, and I guess happy summer, everyone, and good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. I'm assuming Frida Z is Frida Zarita. If that is you, the Frida that we know, please unmute yourself.
Yes, hi everyone, how are you? I'm Frida from Senator Myree's office. I'm Senator Myree's Director of Special Projects. Just wanted to make a few announcements in terms of a few events that we'll be having this summer. Let me just pull up the calendar. So in on July 28th, we'll be having a Dunkers Delight anti-gun violence basketball tournament. It'll be a youth community focused event using basketball skills training. We'll be collaborating with the Brooklyn Nets alongside anti-gun violence community-based organizations. So we'll be having that at Wingate Park, and we'll be currently working on the flyers. We'll be sending that out to all of our partners, and I'll send that along as well to CB7. We'll also be hosting our second annual back to school block party. That will be August 27th. It's on a Saturday from 11 to 6. We really want to bring all of our constituents together in Senate District 20. We'll have food, giveaways, music, bouncy houses, carnival games, all that. So all this information again will be sent your way. And then lastly, we'll also be having a summer series of Senator on Your Block. So me, a couple of staff members, and Senator Myree will be doing a Senator on Your Block every Thursday starting July 21st. In the evenings from 6 to 8, we'll be announcing different locations where we will be to engage constituents, answer any questions, give the opportunity for committee members to speak with Senator Myree about any concerns, any questions that they may have, either about past legislation or upcoming legislation, or just have a general chance, a meet and greet. So that will be starting July 21st, and we'll be running through September. And then in the fall, we do anticipate hosting a couple of fall harvest festivals, turkey distributions, all of that. But for now, the summer events will be the anti-gun violence basketball tournament in July, the block party in August, and the weekly summer series of Senator on Your Block starting in late July. So I'll send all of that information and the events over to CB7 so that the community can attend if they want to. And those are all my updates. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frida. Any other?
Yeah, I have, yep. So I have two people, Jenny Zhang and Emmett Mendoza from also from Assemblywoman Matena's office. Jenny, I'll give you the opportunity to speak if you want to unmute.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Not a lot to update on, as the Assembly member herself was on earlier, reporting back from what happened towards the end of session. Moving forward, we have recently adjusted our office hours for the summertime. So we are open every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. for walk-ins. You don't need an appointment, any type of issue you're having with government. We are able to assist. And then, in terms of programs that are available right now, the Assembly member did mention that overall, the budget and the legislative session was a little bit disappointing in terms of the policies that we were fighting for. There was a lot that was left off the table. However, one positive and meaningful program that continues to exist is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, ERAP. So if you are someone who has rental arrears, even if you have applied for ERAP before and gotten it, you are still eligible to apply again. I believe it's so long as the total is not above 12 months of assistance. So our office is continuing to help people with those applications. And I'm not sure if I'm missing anything and Emmett wants to jump in.
So I have to give Emmett permission to speak, and he's jumping around the board. Stop raising your hand, please. Emmett, you could unmute yourself.
Everyone, Emmett here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just want to also give a legislative update that we were able to pass a series of bills, especially around comprehensive gun reforms through the state that some of our colleagues might have mentioned on this town hall or this community board meeting. Apologize, I just joined not too long ago. But also an update regarding Red Hook, especially around public housing. We were able to pass one of our legislative bills that will allow NYCHA to maintain a public database for open violations, which would bring it on par with a lot of private buildings. As you know, when you submit a complaint or violation request through HPD, a public record gets created and that gets published to the public. Unfortunately, public housing doesn't have this yet. And we're hopeful that the governor will pass this bill hopefully sometime soon, hopefully this month. And this will provide public housing residents and the organizers to be able to escalate and actually hold public housing accountable, especially around issues regarding mold, flood, et cetera. A lot of things that a lot of people are fully aware of right now. Yeah, and I think Jenny covered most of the stuff that we've done so far in the district. Oh yes, and one more thing. So we also we're since we're back in session, since we're back from session that ended not too long ago, we also are extending our community services hours in Red Hook. We're going to be in our Red Hook initiative every first and third Thursday. I know this is CB7, but sometimes, in case if there's any 40 people who work in CB7, who live in CB7 but work in CB6, if you guys have any constituents or any individual that you may know that needs assistance, please send them our way. We'll be at RHI every first and third Thursday from 10 to 3 p.m.
Thank you, Emmett. Any other folks on the list, Jeremy?
Nobody I'm aware of, but I don't know all of our elected officials reps. If I've missed you, please use the raise hand function now. Cesar, I see no additional hands.
Great. Okay, let's go to Chair's report. What a bittersweet moment for me. So much has changed since 2018 when I took over as chair. Our community has changed, the world has changed, this board has changed. And I know during the last 4 years, particularly the last 2 years, we have all been through some very, very challenging times. We've witnessed a lot of trauma even before COVID in this community. And we've witnessed a lot of, obviously a lot of trauma during COVID within the district and indeed within our own family. I know I lost, members of my family, and I know some other board members as well. And in our community, obviously lost a lot of folks. And so it's been really challenging, a really challenging time. Notwithstanding though these challenges, I leave this chairmanship with an enormous sense of pride, accomplishment, and hope for the future. I think Julio said it best. We've done a lot, but we have such a long way to go, and I feel really hopeful and optimistic about that. As far as I'm concerned, we are the best community board in New York City. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But first, I want to do a couple of thank yous. Again, I want to start by thanking the staff, Jeremy and Maria and Natasha. You have always been super supportive, and I really appreciate all of the hard work that you all did to support me in my role as chair of the board. Thank you so much. I want to thank all of you for participating. I want to thank you for having my back. I want to thank you for having confidence in my leadership. I want to thank the executive committee for always responding to my requests for counsel. And I especially want to thank Julio and Pat. You guys have been truly real partners with me in decision-making. I know I have shared some very panicked phone calls and text messages with you about just decisions that we had to make. And you all, again, were steadfast in supporting my leadership, supporting my decisions. And you've also been really very intentional about keeping me accountable. And I so appreciate that. I can't tell you how truly wonderful it's been working with you. I want to also take a moment, and I've been meaning to do this, but it's just been one thing or another. I want to thank John Fantillis. I really believe that we are so fortunate that, as far as I'm concerned, the person in the city who is like the most knowledgeable and just an amazing leader in his own right, but also his knowledge around land use has really made it possible for this community board to lead across the city when it comes to land use issues. So John, really, I thank you so much, particularly because of the hard work that you put into one of the possibly the toughest land use application we've ever confronted on this board, which was the Industry City one. And so thank you, John, for all of that. Thank you for continuing to serve. And again, I want to just say how fortunate we are to have you as our land use chair. I can't think of anyone else that could be a much better asset to this community and to this community board. Why are we the best community board? Because we've led, and I feel really proud, and we should all feel really proud of the work that we've done. We've led around land use. Again, Industry City comes to top of mind. You know, we were required by the charter to have one public engagement. We had 35. And we were committed to making sure that we heard everyone's voice, that we created a space where we were actually gonna dialogue and debate and litigate this massive application. We took on an army of lawyers and consultants and land use experts, and we gave them a run for their money. And whether or not you agree, because that's a whole different conversation with the outcome, I think we should all, and I certainly feel so proud of the fact that we took our time, we did our homework, and we made some amazing recommendations for that application. And so, and it's not just Industry City. We did that across other land use applications, including some housing applications here in Sunset Park and in Windsor Terrace. And again, all of that work was led by John Fantillis. We led and we continue to lead when it comes to engagement and access. I think anyone who knows me, anyone who talked to me early on as I came on, knows that I really wanted to lean into and wanted to be very intentional about creating more access, creating more engagement. And I believe we've moved the needle dramatically, significantly. But again, I am well aware of the fact that we we need to continue to double down on making sure that we engage and we provide access. And I'm really proud, just want to say a couple more things, because, you know, while other boards spent their discretionary funding on a host of things, swag, and we read one community board bought a car with their money. We used our limited resources to wire our boardroom to make sure that we had accessibility for folks with disabilities. We wired our boardroom so that we could live stream all of our meetings. I can't tell you how many people around the city have called me to ask me about, you know, our process for doing that. And to me, it was simple. We need to be transparent. We are, again, the most proximal level of government to our communities. And we need to make sure that people know what's going on, they know what we're talking about, they know how we're doing our work. And so the money that we invested in getting our boardroom set up to do our live streams is something that I feel really proud about. And I think, again, we've led in transparency, we've led in engagement. And again, I can't say enough about how humbled I am and how honored I have been to serve as the chair. We have some fantastic, outstanding people, and the new crop of board members, I feel even more excited about just how kick-ass we can be. And again, I think folks are noticing. I know the new borough president has noticed and has really asked us to be his partner in some of the reforms that he wants to do across Brooklyn with community boards. Other boards from Queens to the Bronx have contacted me. And it all, I think, for me, comes down to leadership. And we are a board that is leaderful, because while I had the title, we are all leaders, and we've all demonstrated our leadership in one way or another. And so I feel eternally proud and just humbled by being in such amazing company. So I'm going to leave it there, and I want to wish Julio and the entire executive committee that's coming on lots of success. I'm obviously going to continue to be engaged and involved, and you can count on me for any support that you need as we transition into a new leadership. So long live Community Board 7, and we should give ourselves a round of applause, and let's get some rest this summer, and let's get back to work in September. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Okay, Jeremy, your report.
There is a hand up if you'd like to call that first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joan, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Cesar, I'm going to give you your first job. While you're working with the borough president's office, tell them, please, when there's an opening for a board member, to reappoint Zach Jacy. Thank you.
I hear you, Joan. Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to miss him.
We are going to miss him. And I should say that Zach has been an amazing leader for us. He's been heading our transportation conversations, and I can't think of anyone else who could do a better job of that. So I hear you, Joan. Thank you. Okay, Jeremy.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to try to keep this pretty brief, but yesterday I attended a meeting on the city accelerating planning efforts on the study of the entire BQE Gowanus corridor. This was, I think, a hastily put together meeting after an article came out in the New York Times on Sunday announcing this. So they met with 6 district managers yesterday afternoon. We should hear more soon about autumn workshops and meetings that DOT will be holding. They were kind of vague as to timing, other than to say this community would be the autumn. So stay tuned on that. DOT has also announced that 23rd Street between 5th and 6th Avenues will be part of open streets this summer. So Tuesdays through Fridays from 8 to 5, it will be a complete street closure. 23rd Street between 5th and 6th. The 4th Avenue Green Market, which is 4th Avenue between 59th and 60th Street, is opening on July 9th and is open on all Saturdays from 8 until 5 until November 19th. And of course, the Bartell Pritchard Green Market is open, as well as the Sunset Park Market. That one's Sundays. I was happy to read 2 days ago that the Sunset Park Pool is opening on June 28th. And then this afternoon, I read in the news that the city is cutting, due to the lifeguard shortage, cutting all programming at the pools. So I don't have the details from the city yet. I just saw that in an article. I'm hoping to get more information. We will share that with you when we can. Liquor licenses, new and renewal applications since the last month. There have been 11 and are available in the office for those who wish to review. And board members, we already emailed you the crime stat statistics, CompStat, excuse me. That's my report.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, now it's time for old business. Do any board members have any old business? Pat, I think you're trying to, I'll recognize you, and yes, go ahead.
I know this has come up many meetings, but I'm about to bring it up again. Sanitation, public safety on the avenue. I am hearing of folks who are parking their cars from one side to the other and not really driving them. And when they do go to drive them, they're finding an infestation of rats in their car, making a home. So what is being done? Raise sanitation in reference to the businesses, in reference to the vendors. Is anyone monitoring that they're cleaning up? This is horrible. You know, people trying to save money and they're spending now thousands of dollars because their engines are trashed.
Yeah.
May I address that, Cesar?
Sure, go ahead.
So, Pat, just this morning, I spoke to Benny Lee, who is the head of sanitation enforcement in the area, who was starting to go up on 5th Avenue, store to store, and issue summonses for coming out too far with their wares, including food stores. They're also looking at other violations, including sanitation violations. He's our sanitation enforcement officer. So that is looking at the businesses in the area. I know that the bid already pays for supplemental services. I believe the council member had in the current fiscal year is, I don't know what the new fiscal year holds.
While I appreciate hearing that there's extra money for that, what is being done about the vendors being held responsible to clean up after themselves? This is a community that should be working together. So that means the vendors themselves, whether they live here or not, they are selling their stuff on the avenue to the community members, which means that they should be a partner in ensuring that our sanitation needs are met. I don't know if David's on this call and can answer that, but this is very, very concerning. It's a shame that there has to be so much dirt and garbage all over the place. And it's not just the business's fault. It's everyone that's vending out there, everyone.
Thank you, Pat. I think you're raising a really important question, but let's refer this to the sanitation committee so we can, I think this really deserves and merits a proper conversation because you're not wrong about the sanitation burdens, and we should really dig into that. So I am going to refer this to the sanitation committee. Thank you both. Barbara Lee,
appreciate it.
you bet. Barbara Lee.
Hi, first I want to say congratulations to everybody and thank you, Cesar, for all your work you've done. And you did have a really hard few years. You're a good example, I'm telling you. Okay, so last month we talked about the 72nd precinct speaking here. I got here a couple of minutes late. Did the 72nd precinct show up today?
They did not. So we still have to, again, I think we should, again, refer this to public safety because I think we need to have some direct conversations with the precinct and you know.
They are scheduled to attend our public safety committee meeting later this month.
Okay, thank you. So hopefully that'll quell some of our concerns around their engagement. Thank you, Barbara. Cindy.
Yeah, I just, so I wanted to say, it's just been such an honor and my heart is full. And I'm just so grateful for all of you who take the time and serve this community. And I learned so much from this board and from all of our community members. And anyway, old business. So Karen and I connected about the handbook, which is, we've been sort of discussing sort of an onboarding and orientation process. And of course, we're going to continue to do that work. But now that we have new board members, we thought it might be a good idea to interview some folks about what questions they have after they do their orientation at Borough Hall. And so we'll, you know, I'm not sure whether this is going to kind of live within a committee in the fall, but in the meantime, if anybody wants to get involved in helping with like what education orientation, sharing ideas, I think for now, maybe share them with Jeremy and then he can send those on to us. And I know Cynthia Felix has shared a lot of ideas and we just welcome anybody that feels like once you review the bylaws, once you go to the orientation at Borough Hall, what is it that we can do to help everybody hit the ground running when we start back up with the monthly meetings in the fall? Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that you and Karen continue to meet on that. And I think it's going to be such a helpful tool for the board and for the public as well. So thank you for that. Beverly, go ahead.
Let me unmute myself.
You are unmuted. You just muted yourself. So undo that. There you go.
Thank you to everyone. I appreciate your all service to our community. I have one quick question about an ice cream truck that's on the circle on Prospect Park West that is standing there all day long with the engine on. And I wonder if anybody knows anything about it.
Jeremy, do you want to?
I don't know about that ice cream truck specifically, but I could tell you one that sits all day on 6th Avenue and 44th Street at Sunset Park, which we haven't been able to get to move. So Beverly, please give us a call tomorrow and we will speak to the precinct about that ice cream truck as well.
I will. Thank you very much, Jeremy.
Okay. Any other old business? Okay, new business. Anybody have new business? Oh, lots of new business. Okay, let's start with David, and we'll go to Julio, and then we'll do Daniel.
I'm raising a little topic. It's one of those Fifth Avenue things, but MTA Gleason Depot is just parking a bus on 49th or 50th Street, sometimes for 8 or 10 hours a day. There's no driver attendant to it. It just sits on the curb in metered parking. And I've escalated it to surface operations, and I've tried to call the Gleason Depot and nobody seems to know anything about it. But it's another one of these things that just contributes to a sense of disorder on the avenue, whether it's the private for-profit COVID shed that was just dumped at 43rd Street adjacent to the park 6 months ago that no agency knows how to handle, or MTA just deciding, okay, here's a great place to park a bus. The merchants are complaining, parking spaces are taken. I'd love to just raise this. We need kind of an interagency touch. So these folks are in the room at the same time, maybe at a district service cabinet or other setting. But everybody just seems to be able to point to someone else and say, oh, that's DOT, oh, that's sanitation, oh, that's health, oh, that's street activity permit office, oh, that's just not our job, oh, it's not NYPD. And we don't have anywhere to go to just solve, even one or two very simple things on the avenue while we get on to the other, really more profound issues like just the right to pass for families and wheelchairs and strollers and such. So I'd just like to raise that as, I don't know whether it falls in economic development or public safety or transportation. Even for us, I suspect these are topics that don't fall cleanly into one topic or another. So I'd like to raise that and find a place to like own it and get people in the room at the same time to start solving these things.
Thank you, David. So I'm going to refer, can you get in touch with Jeremy? And Jeremy, maybe can you bring this up? I think that's a great idea at the district council meeting.
Coincidentally, I did just last week, but MTA didn't show.
Yeah.
And David, I sent that photo of that bus that one of our other board members sent to us, as well as several photos I went and took myself of illegally parked private vehicles that MTA workers put their vests and hats in that somehow never get enforced. And I sent that to MTA and I let them know this week I will be reaching out to the Transportation Enforcement Agency. Precinct isn't writing tickets, and I'm going to ask them to take a tour with me.
All right, thank you so much.
Anything I can do to support, let me know.
Let's talk and coordinate.
Okay.
Thank you. Julio?
Just a gentle reminder that we have a primary election this June. Early voting starts Saturday for 10 days. There will be different positions on the ballot for the June election, starting from the statewide elections, governor, lieutenant governor, state assembly, judicial positions. We will also have a August primary for our state Senate and Congress member because of a recent court case. That we have 2 primaries, and then we will have a 3rd election in November for the general election. So just making sure people go vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Julio, for that reminder. Really important. Daniel.
I wanted to suggest a Parks Committee sometime maybe later in the month. I don't want to put Victor on the spot, but I think we should address the issue of program closings because of a lack of lifeguards or other personnel. We should not allow, there are people who are excellent swimmers in this community, I'm sure, and with some help and a sign off, they can volunteer to lifeguard. We can do a lot, and we shouldn't have these bureaucratic mixes like ruined summers for kids. They only have a few summers. So thank you. So that's it.
Thank you, Dan. And duly noted, we should refer this to the Parks Committee. So Victor, maybe we can talk about scheduling a meeting in the next month or so. Thank you, Dan. Sammy.
Hi, good evening. I wanted to ask, can I make a motion? I'd like to make a motion. And it's pertaining to Fifth Avenue. I'd like to make a motion that we convene the following committees: the Sanitation Committee, the Transportation Committee, the Public Safety Committee, Economic Development Committee, once again as a task force to address the issues of Fifth Avenue. We involve ourselves and utilize our voices on the larger issues like Industry City, Equinor, where we have at most an advisory role. However, Fifth Avenue, where we have the opportunity to play a more active role, we're, I think, falling short. So I'd like for us to convene a Fifth Avenue task force, once again, consisting of the sanitation, transportation, public safety, and the economic development committees.
Thank you, Sammy. So I'm gonna ask for counsel from the parliamentarian, Julio. Did I hear Sammy Ray move a motion? Do we, so yeah, can you give us some guidance around how to manage this?
Sure. If he wants to create a special task force, that doesn't necessarily need to, that can just be appointed by the chair for Fifth Avenue. But if he's looking for something more specific, that can be, or I guess the motion is to create the task force.
Correct.
I guess that can be like unanimous consent.
Okay, so is there a second for that motion?
Second,
I'm sorry, what?
yes.
Second.
Second.
So I think I heard David second the motion. So I'm gonna just, I'd like to move this through unanimous consent unless someone has an objection to moving this motion through unanimous consent. Daniel?
What's the motion?
The motion is to create a task force that consists of a Fifth Avenue task force, if I'm understanding correctly, that consists of sanitation, public safety, economic development,
and transportation.
Okay, if you want to do that, my only concern about that is that that's a lot of committees to address a lot of issues, and
There
it's
are a lot of
going.
issues. I'm sorry.
There are a lot of issues, but the thing is, you can only solve one at a time.
Okay, I hear you.
So that's, I mean, I'll vote for it. But what I'm saying is it would be helpful if every committee that had the responsible oversight, if that's what you want to call it, on the issue addresses the issue specifically. And then we have a targeted approach instead of like, hey, let's have a task force.
Okay, I hear you, Dan. Thank you. There is a motion on the table, and it has been seconded. And so again, we'll do this. We'll try to do this through unanimous consent, unless someone objects to the unanimous consent process. So, okay, so I guess can I? So seeing no objections to the unanimous consent, I believe the motion carries. And then I'll just refer this to Julio as the new chair to implement it. So congratulations.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, let's move forward unless anyone else has other new business. Okay, public comment. Anyone on the list for public comment?
Members of the public, if you would like to speak about any issue for up to 3 minutes, please raise your hand. I see at least 3 hands up already. Cesar, would you like me to call on them?
Yeah, let's 3 minutes. Yep, let's do it.
I have Jennifer Baumgardner first. Jennifer, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. So I'm here actually on behalf of Grow NYC. And Jeremy, you actually spoke about a few of the things that I wanted to mention this evening. So let me actually begin by saying I'm the market manager at 7th Avenue Sunset Park Green Market, which you mentioned earlier, and also happen to be a community member here in Sunset Park. I've been for 19 years, so this has been kind of enlightening to be here this evening. And I'd also, like to thank the community board for its ongoing support of the green markets and our mission to bring healthy and fresh local food into the community and making that accessible to all of our neighbors. I also wanted to remind everyone, I'll just say it again, as you had said earlier, Jeremy, that there are 3 markets within running in CB7, Bartle Pritchard, as you had noted, which is Wednesdays and Sundays. I believe the hours are 8 to 3. That's Prospect Park West and 15th Avenue. A little closer to home is my market. Mine, I take ownership of it, but it's Grow NYC. It's the neighborhoods market. That's the 7th Avenue Sunset Park, which is 7th Avenue between 43rd and 44th. And that's Saturdays 8 to 3. And then, as you again noted, beginning July 9th is the seasonal market. That's the 4th Avenue Sunset Park Market. Saturdays, it's 4th Avenue and 60th Street between 59th and 60th, and that's 8 to 2. We sell all kinds of locally grown fruits, vegetables, raised meats, eggs, and just a ton more. And I also wanted to make note that we also do accept SNAP EBT benefits. And with funding from the Department of Health, we can also match up to $10 of that spending. So people who are utilizing those resources get a little extra whenever they come to us, just to help them access these goods at the market. And I do know that the board was sent flyers. They were emailed flyers for all of these markets in both English and Spanish, with the Chinese translations coming soon. And if those could be mailed out to the board's email list, that would be fantastic. Or I'm going to put actually an email in the chat if anyone would be interested in accessing any of these flyers. They can send an email requesting the flyers and specifying a language if they would prefer. Again, English, Spanish, and Chinese for any of these markets. And they can also go to, I'll put Grow NYC's web address in the chat, and so people can actually look there too for more information on this. And again, thank you to the board for your support on this. And I hope everybody gets a chance to come out to any of the markets, all of the markets, and come see what we have.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, who's next?
I have Byron Todman next.
Byron, go ahead, 3 minutes.
Byron, you could unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Byron Todman, and I'm here this evening on behalf of Neighborhood Housing Services of Brooklyn, a local not-for-profit in Flatbush. We've been servicing Brooklyn for the past 40 years, and I want to update the community board on a few of the programs that we have rolled out this year. We are presently administering a grant for disabled veterans to get repairs for accessibility, such as widening doors, chair lifts, ramps, or walking tubs. We also have a grant for general home improvement for Brooklyn residents for roofing, electrical work, plumbing, sidewalk repairs. And lastly, we are working with the city on what's called the Emergency Housing Voucher Program to recruit local landlords who have units available for housing for fellow New Yorkers. In this program, the city will be paying, it's similar to Section 8 and FEPS, up to 70% of the rent, and the tenant pays the remaining 30%. Unlike other city programs, the city will be remaining engaged throughout the tenancy where there are issues between the landlord and the tenant to try to mitigate those issues. They're also offering repair incentives of up to $15,000 once a unit has been recruited. And they're also paying a hold incentive of 1 month's rent. As you know, processing takes some time, and that's their way of compensating a landlord for holding their unit off the market. I would put our information in the chat, but I'm currently driving, so I will email our information to the community board tomorrow, but all the information I just covered is available at our website at nhsbrooklyn.org. And thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Byron. Next.
I have Nate Gray next.
Nate, you have 3 minutes.
Nate just put his hand down.
Okay, thank you.
No, Nate's hand went back up. I think he hit the wrong button. Nate, you could unmute yourself.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can.
Great.
3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Nate Gray. I live at 113 Vanderbilt Street between McDonald and East 2nd Street. And there's a development on the corner on McDonald and Vanderbilt that my neighbors and I are really concerned about for a number of reasons, but probably the most specific of them is I think the project is out of compliance with, they're going through the as of right, and we're pretty sure it's out of compliance. And what they're trying to do is, rather than using the as of right R5 zoning, they're using R5 infill in a way that we don't feel is actually compliant with zoning. So we've got some concerns about it that we were hoping that the community board could help us to resolve in a number of ways. First is probably just to get the developer to come and speak to our neighbors. And then second, to help us move this complaint forward in a way to get a resolution to it, probably for this specific site, but then also just in generally around the way our section of the neighborhood is zoned. And to look at both the non-contextual zoning in the neighborhood, but then also probably looking at it possibly as a down zoning to a contextual district. And then back to the specifics of this site, it's very close to the intersection of McDonald Avenue. And what their plans show is a 2-car curb cut that would go just off of McDonald Avenue on East 2nd Street, basically within 20 feet of the intersection at a corner that's pretty busy. And so cars would be coming southbound on McDonald, make a left-hand turn onto Vanderbilt, and then have to immediately turn right into this curb cut, which is a pretty clear safety violation. So I was hoping that the community board could help us address that issue as well as the zoning issue. And I'm not sure what the specific way to do that. I could do that either through the district manager or maybe through a committee, but
yeah, why don't you reach out directly to Jeremy at the office, and he'll guide you through some next steps.
Sure. And then outside of the specific site, the issue of we're on the west side of the Prospect Expressway is the area that is not a contextual zoning district. What have you guys ever confronted that and had a recommendation about putting that into a contextual zoning district rather than just a plain R5?
Yeah, again, so we can't really get into that in this part of the meeting. So what I advise you to do is get in touch with Jeremy, and he'll have some answers on some of these questions, and again, guide you.
Julio was kind enough to put the email address in the chat.
Thank you, Nate. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
I have Maria Roca next.
Okay, Maria, 3 minutes.
You could unmute yourself. Maria Roca?
Maria, we can't hear you if you're trying to talk.
Maria, you're muted. Once, twice. We could get back to her, Cesar.
Let's go back. Let's get back to her. Let's go to the next person if there is one.
I have Kenneth Lazar next.
Okay, Kenneth.
Ken, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, good evening. Kenneth Lazar, New York City Department of Buildings. I just have announcement. The New York City Department of Buildings has brought back Homeowner Night. It has been renamed. It's now called Buildings After Hours. the DOB borough office in Brooklyn, actually each borough office in all 5 boroughs, are now open every Tuesday evening from 4 to 7 p.m. Staff is available to answer questions and provide needed information to homeowners, tenants, small business owners, and building managers. So basically, if you have a question about a project, a problem you're having with a home, a violation, if you want to do a project and you're not sure whether you can do it with your zoning on the size of your property, you can come in between 4 and 7 and meet with somebody before engaging in investment, before hiring an architect, before investing money into a project to see if it can be done. Again, every Tuesday between 4 and 7, you do not need an appointment. You can come into any office in each borough and speak with somebody at the department. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ken, for that information. Okay, anyone else left on the list, Jeremy?
Just Maria Roca. Let's see if she's
Yeah, have you
back.
been able to figure out your technical difficulties?
No, Maria, you could unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Now we
Yes, we
can.
can.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay,
Floor is
good. I'm
yours.
glad we were able to resolve such highly difficult technical problems. Okay, so the two issues this is Maria Roca, Friends of Sunset Park, and the two issues / comments that I like to make are about the park itself, Sunset Park. There's the issue of the ice cream truck, which has baffled us in particular because we've been fighting this for decades. Why is year after year a truck allowed to idle against all the rules of the Department of Environmental Protection? They also obstruct the entrance to the park. So in case of an emergency, an ambulance cannot get in to give assistance to a patron of the park. So we do not understand why between the Parks Department officers and the 72nd Precinct, these folks are just pushed out of there. They have broken rules upon rules year after year. That's one issue. The second issue is that we have been getting many calls and about the fact that on Sundays, there is cooking with open flames in the park every Sunday now for months as part of the Sunday market that sprung in the park, I believe last year, maybe earlier than that. And we have checked with the Parks Department, all the people have done equal as such, and there is no cooking, no open flame, no open food preparation allowed in Sunset Park itself. Maybe there are other places where picnic areas are set aside. That is not allowed in Sunset Park by anyone. But somehow, for whatever reason, that cooking with an open flame by various vendors is being allowed in Sunset Park on Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. And no one can figure out why it is that it's being allowed to do that. It is a hazard. It is a fire hazard. There is no, the park as it is a small footprint for the number of residents of this community. So when you have numerous vendors lying next to each other on both sides of a path, with many people passing by with open flames, that is an open, that is a problem, aside from the fact that there is no cooking allowed in the park. So if the Parks Committee of the Community Board needs to address this, they cannot shy away from this. Both the ice cream truck, but mostly important, equally important, is the open flame and the cooking in the park, with a visit by the Parks Department to a meeting for them to explain why it is that this is being allowed to go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, anyone else left on the list, Jeremy?
I see no additional hands.
Okay, so I think we're at the end of our meeting. Once again, thank you, everyone. Have a great summer. Get some rest, recharge, and I move to adjourn this meeting. Is there a
I
second?
second the motion. Have a great
All
summer.
right, folks.
Bye.
Hugs and kisses.
Thank
Bye.
you. Have a good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
Cesar.
Bye.
Se están despidiendo.